Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am here with a great group of people to talk about, that is right, Harry Potter, Half-Blood Prince. Harry Potter Retrospective is back. Check out all the other Harry Potter retros that we've done. They're all on Patreon, and we're going all the way up to Deathly Hallows Part 2. It is a great adventure. So, some plugs before I get into some introductions with these fine folks. Check us out on our home base, GeekVerse.ca. Check us out on our Twitter, GeekVerseCast, and our Facebook, GeekVerse. And then just be sure to check us out on our Patreon, where you can add ad-free episodes and a whole bunch of other exclusive content. I am the snogging Taylor Field, and I'm joined by...
the chosen one, Kirklin Patzer.
The Adam Hardcaster, Dylan Muss.
I am the Half-Blood Prince Jessica, and I'm going to start it off by just a quick shout out that the fuzzy noise in your ears are waxperts.
Waxperts.
Yeah, so
There
not the nargles. Those are the...
Another thing that only she can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just the introduction to Harry Potter. And
I like
Half-Blood
it.
Prince.
So, where do you guys... you know what? I always ask, where do you guys want to start? But I think it's just a matter of like, okay, how does this movie jive with you guys? Like, it's a good starting point. So who wants to take it away?
I'll take it away. This was a very interesting one for me to watch because there were good parts of this movie that I'm like, man, have I seen this thing from start to finish before? Like a lot of this, like Slughorn, for example, big character. I had no idea who this guy was, and I didn't remember a single scene with him. But then there is parts that I do remember, particularly the ending. I remember a lot of things there. So I definitely have seen this, but I think this might be like the second or like maximum third time I've seen this movie, watching it this week. So it was interesting. Felt like a lot of new content in a way. But I like that it, we talked about this at the start of like all the last episodes, but we have the same director, we have the writer back from all the other ones, and it felt like more consistent and it felt more in line with what we watched last week. And overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I think it has some kind of big issues that I'm excited to talk about because I think I know exactly why I dislike some of these things. But I think my main takeaway is that it feels very different than other movies in that it feels very split to me. Like there's the first 2/3 of the movie and then there's the last third, and those feel like two completely separate objects that were just like jammed together in a way. And then I feel like this movie, above all else, feels very much like just setting up the next one and cliffhangery in a way. Now, obviously, I know a lot of the stuff that goes on in the next one, so it doesn't feel that way necessarily. But I feel like all the other movies kind of wrap up with a nice bow, and obviously there's stuff building up for the future, but it feels like a really solid ending place for that particular movie, where I felt like this one doesn't really end in a very satisfying way, and it just feels like, all right, get ready for the next one, it's coming. So I'm wondering how that'll hit me, considering that the next one is just a part one for what would be the finale. It's almost like perhaps this was the start of that last trilogy or something, but obviously it wasn't really framed that way. But overall, I think there's a lot of really good stuff in here, a lot of interesting moments. So I'm excited to get into it.
I'm going to just go next just because I want to jump on that. I actually have it in my notes that I liked the ending, that I enjoyed that there was such a huge lead up, like all this stuff just happened and it was kind of like holy shit, like, what's next? And obviously I don't think at this point it was announced that it was going to be a 2-part. So you were kind of just like waiting for that last one. Yes, once you find out that it's 2 parts, it kind of takes away from it. But I feel like there was just so much that happened that it was just the next one had to be exciting. But overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I can see why there was that bit of a difference of like, yes, the first half was kind of, I don't know, fun and whimsical and a bit more kind of what we're used to. And then all of a sudden it gets really dark really fast. But I think this one, it really kind of gets into the grit of what we've been building up to for the last kind of 3 or 4 movies. We start to explain some of the things that we've kind of touched on, and there's been no real answer about what exactly it is. And I do think, and we'll talk about it more when we get in, there was an artistic choice that I actually really liked in this one, with kind of how they did some of the coloring in this movie. And for me, that was kind of a fun little thing that once I picked up on it that I hadn't noticed before, I was like, oh, this is, kind of really cool. But I'll let, either if Taylor or Kirklin wants to talk about their kind of overall thoughts first, and then we can kind of get into the meat a little more.
Taylor says ladies go first, so I'll go first, I guess.
Get into the meat and potatoes, Kirkland.
I'll jump into the meat and potatoes. Yeah, this movie, like the other one, I liked probably the most this viewing compared to any other time that I'd seen the movie. I'm like looking back to the first time I saw it. Another one of those, like I go into the theater, I have no idea what's happening, like book wise, and I'm just like pissed off that like my favorite character died, like Dumbledore gets murked, and like I just left the theater like pissed off again. And my sister's like, "Oh no, you don't understand. Like they're gonna be searching for Horcruxes." I'm like, I don't even know what these are. Like they explained it in the movie, but like I don't know, just my little brain couldn't fathom what was going on. But anyways, this time around, I really, really, really like this movie. It's probably going to end up much higher on my ranking than I was expecting. Just like you guys talking about how different like the two parts, or Dylan, you mentioned like the first 2/3 was much different than like the last third of the movie. Totally is. I watched this in 2 parts though, so I feel like it kind of like I didn't feel like just jerked by like the abruptness of like the shift, because you guys are right. Like the beginning of the movie, there's a lot of comedy in it. This is probably the movie that has like the best comedy for me. Like I felt like all the comedy like pretty much worked for me. And then yeah, like the last hour or so, it gets very serious, very dark, like Jessica was saying. And because I watched this in 2 parts, like without planning, the second part was like literally when Dumbledore and, and Harry like go on their mission. It's like total shift of the movie. So it's like I watched 2 different movies. So you guys are totally right there. But I really liked just everywhere that we went in this movie. I'm excited to dissect certain scenes and all that stuff. But this, like the last one, these were my favorite viewings of these last 2 movies. So I'm curious how I'm going to be feeling in the last 2. Because like Dylan, these are the ones I've seen the least. I've probably still seen them a couple times, but like compared to those first 2, maybe 3 movies, like I watched those so much as a kid. So I am kind of in open waters a bit. But I do, yeah. I just remember being so like heartbroken at the end of this movie when I first saw it, because Dumbledore dies and you just aren't feel like it's just over. It's like, what? When's the next movie coming out? So I definitely feel that way, but having the knowledge that I know now of what's to come, I really like the ending, and I'm excited to talk about the specific parts with you guys, but I'll let the snogger go.
Yeah, for me, this movie, I'll always put Order of the Phoenix above this movie, just because like I jive with that humor a lot more, and I like the tone of that film. But this one just, it really has a lot of humor that I understand what you're coming from, Kirkland, that you liked a lot. And I feel like it's because of like when we've reached this point of our lives where we're adults, we can kind of like, not, I don't want to say relate, but like we understand the kind of humor they're going for. It's like, it is humorous in that way. And it definitely does have such a dark tone. I know, in my opinion, I feel like Goblet of Fire is when it really got dark, and we have obviously Voldemort come back, which is like peak darkness, I feel like. But in this, when you have such notable characters getting hurt and one major character just being popped off 360 no scope, like it's relentless, and it sets the tone. I mean, I again, I love the ending, because I mean, yeah, what are you gonna do? You honestly gonna go back to school after your head wizard was just killed? I don't fucking think so. Not a chance. So you got to go out, and I'm glad that we finally got in this film a moment where Dumbledore is leveling with Harry. And this is something that you've always had a problem with, Dylan, is just why doesn't Harry and Dumbledore just like talk and communicate? And they finally have that conversation, and he opens up the floodgates to Harry in this movie, and he lets them into that inner circle of what's to be done. And that sets up the precedence for the next 2 films, which I think is great. So again, I'm not saying this is like by any means like a bad movie. It's a solid, awesome stepping stone for where we got to get to. And it just sets the aesthetic.
Nice. Well, speaking of the aesthetic, I think Jessica's note about the color, like the color palette, I guess, of this movie. It's probably a good place to start, since we normally talked about like the cinematography or directors. I don't think I have really anything to say on that this time, just because it is a lot of the same people. But I'm curious what you noticed in the color spectrum.
Yeah, so it the first time I noticed it was um, when kind of we have the Tom Riddle flashback to him in the orphanage. But then from that point going forward, almost anytime something was happening with Lord Voldemort, everything was in really gray tones. So there's a scene when Draco's in the room of requirement testing out the vanishing cabinet, and then when they are in like the cave drinking the water, it's gray. You'll notice like there's just the blue in Harry's eyes and on the side of his coat. And then in the tower, right before Snape kills Dumbledore, it's really gray again. So there's these colorful kind of scenes, but then anytime something's happening that's really kind of important to Voldemort and his return, it's all just kind of these really black and gray tones. So it's such a subtle difference, but like as soon as I noticed it, every time that it happened, I was just like, okay, so this is once again something that has to do with how he's returning and how, you know, the Horcruxes are important and things like that. So it was just kind of this really slight nod that like I'm wondering if anyone else even here really picked up on that.
In retrospect, I can see it now.
Yeah, it's a good way to like call out the mood. And I think even with the like flashback scenes where you do see Tom Riddle, like that kind of has that green look that I guess we saw a lot in Chamber of Secrets, right? Is when we saw those other flashbacks. So I like that they kept it consistent in that way too to that previous one. But yeah, I think you're right. Like you make it, and it kind of makes sense that the last third of the movie is really just all darkness and dreary, whereas you know the rest of the movie, except for those little scenes with Draco, you're kind of just chilling in Hogwarts, and it's fun dating teen drama stuff. So yeah.
And I mean, the flashbacks for sure, like it made sense to have it grayed out because obviously, you know, we're trying to separate those two, but then to notice just the color shift continuing on into the present day was, I don't know. I really just enjoyed it. It was just such a slight little nod to like, this is something that's making the movie darker. And this is kind of the visual representation of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think the cinematography in general is just super solid.
Yeah.
In this movie and the last, I like that. I forget the name of the director who did who does the last four, but I think
David Yates.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to send it home. He has a good mix of kind of all of the styles in a way from the previous movies and directors.
Yeah, and you just mentioned like the cinematography. I there was a couple of shots that I really liked where there was one where I think it was when Ron and Lav, what's her name? They're like just snogging in the stairwell tower or whatever, and then it like kind of pans away from the window, and then it goes up to like Malfoy, just like sad, very sad Malfoy in this entire movie. But that would happen, and then because you're basically just going from like two very happy young people, you know, just enjoying themselves, and then it just goes to like a very, very like opposite side of the spectrum. Draco just like so depressed about what he has to do. And there's another one, I think it's when Harry and Luna are going to Slughorn's ball, and then it like kind of pans over to the left, and again it's just like Draco in the hallway, just like
that's
sulking.
when he's in the windowsill.
Yeah. So I liked how it just kind of like started on the one shot and then kind of just panned over to just reveal a little bit more. I like when, you know, cinematographers add that in shows and movies and stuff like that. It's just a fun little cinema trick, but I eat it up every time.
Yeah, and I think that leads into something that I feel like we haven't seen at all in these movies before, which is that there's a lot of scenes in this movie that don't have Harry or Harry's perspective at all given onto them. You see a lot of scenes with Draco like having conversations early on in the movie with Draco's mom talking with Snape and Bellatrix, and you know those scenes that Jessica mentioned with Draco in the storage room. Is that the room of requirement? Is that what you called it? With all the stuff, yeah, and like I can't think of another time that we get that, because any time where you'd have a scene, you know, like with the young Tom Riddle at Hogwarts, it's like Harry going into the memory thing and like seeing that scene, and even though he's not like necessarily a character in there, it's still from his perspective. Whereas I don't think we really saw that at all. Like it's always kind of from Harry's perspective, specifically. Like for example, in the last movie when Harry gets to Sirius's house and then like everyone's talking in the room, like in this movie, I feel like you would have seen that scene. You would have been in there hearing them talk. But no, in this one, like in that movie, they just kind of close the door. Harry goes upstairs, and that's kind of what the viewer sees as well. So I think they played it around a lot more with that, which was interesting because it actually made Draco feel like a character who has his own free will and is a character outside of just being a guy who says Potter and says some really snarky thing. You know, he's actually a character who's doing his own stuff on the side. What did you guys think of the addition of like those, like, I guess just storytelling things, side characters getting more of the spotlight?
That was one thing that I had, just to kind of keep it on Malfoy, on Draco, is, you know, right away on the train, like we get a scene with him when he, you know, kicks Harry, knocks him out. And I have a note that, holy cow, his voice dropped. And you can tell because you don't hear him talk for the last 2 movies. And all of a sudden,
Exactly.
he talks again.
Yeah.
Another thing too, you know, I had a note that, you know, you have to think Draco's supposed to be 16, right? You know, all of this stuff that he's supposed to be doing, you know, poisoning people and cursing people and getting the vanishing cabinet to work and all of this stuff, like on a 16-year-old, that's, you know, so all the emotion and kind of that acting that we see at the end that Tom Felton, not Hiddleston.
Yeah.
I almost
Nice
got
job.
it
Jessica
wrong.
got the actor name. Let's go.
You know, I thought that was, you know, at the time it seemed a little over the top. I was kind of like, okay, that's a little lame. But thinking back to it, you know, he's had so much responsibility as a 16-year-old, and I think he does a good job acting about how emotionally told that would be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really was impressed with his like acting in this movie in general. It's probably just because, like you guys said, he's just been so in like the bleachers the last few movies. And I'm really happy that we got this like inclusion of Draco in this movie, because otherwise, like looking back on it, it would have just been such a lame type villain, right? He's just like an annoying, like spoiled little brat, basically. It's like he's not really like scary. He's not killing anyone until you get to this movie. And I think they do a really good job at portraying that type of guy who's like, his family's in like shady shit and he just has so much expectation that like he's just born in it. Like that is just his, like that's his new life and he just has no say in the matter. And you can really see how much that's just like weighing on him. And like he's so terrified. And like big shouts out to Tom Felton for like, you know, acting that, because I think it's even when like he's breaking down so many times in this movie. He's sulking a lot over railings, but also when he has that little duel with Harry in the bathroom, he's just like bawling. He's just so emotionally distraught. And then even when he's up in the astronomy tower and he's just like, again, you can see it, like his eyes just got bags and he's just not having a good 6th year at Hogwarts. That's for sure.
I think that scene really stuck with me just because of his inability to do it. You know, he was standing there, he had like various minutes to pull the trigger, so to speak.
Totally.
And he couldn't do it because, you know, there is like a part of him that actually cares for Dumbledore. And so, I mean, he is still like just a very evil bad guy and he's always been just a real douchebag. But, you know, contrary to the point I made in the last episode, I think he does have a little bit more dynamic nature to him. And
totally.
He's not just like completely irredeemable. And I think that goes a long way based off what I said last episode, even though we also talked about at some point that, wow, where is he in these movies? Like he is just such a non-character. I guess last movie, while he didn't have much dialogue necessarily, we at least saw, you know, he was kind of working with what's her face to kind of find out about Dumbledore's army and all that stuff. A quick question that I should probably know the answer to, but I don't think it was maybe explicitly said. Lucius, are we just assuming he's in Azkaban right now? Is that?
I think he's just like in the dungeons at the Malfoy residence. Like Voldemort's just like pissed off at him.
I mean, didn't he get like knocked out and stuff during the battle?
I think so. Yeah.
At the Ministry, and so he just got away. Like they didn't.
Death Eaters are pretty good at sneaking away, so I'm pretty sure he got out. Because I mean, we learn about him in the next movie, right?
He's back in the next. Yeah, because I honestly I don't remember that kind of detail. So
he's in Azkaban.
Oh, he is.
Oh.
He easily got it. I guess it
'cause
makes sense why
was
he
one of the
gets
few
out,
that
though.
actually got knocked out, right?
Yeah, as a result of failing to steal the prophecy in the big battle at the end of the last
Yeah.
one, he's spending time in Azkaban, which I'll throw it out now and I'll throw it out again later in Deathly Hallows Part 2. You actually get to see his Azkaban tattoo.
Mm.
So there is a little shout out to it, a nod in the
Okay.
movies.
I did not know that you had a tattoo if you went there, to be honest. Have we talked about that? I completely missed that.
You know what? I don't think we did. And the only
Sirius
time it
had
would have
it.
been, yeah, I
Yeah.
was going to say it would have been in Azkaban.
Yeah, I
would've
just
been the
kind of
time.
assumed he had a tattoo, I guess, but that's interesting.
It's just hard.
Speaking, okay, so here's one thing, and this isn't necessarily a topic, but at the end of this movie, they're talking about how the Horcrux that Harry found was like a fake or was swapped out with someone, and they gave the initials. I don't know who that is, and if we can just not spoil that, that'd be great. I think we'll talk about it in the next one, obviously. But I honestly, throughout this movie, I didn't know who the Half-Blood Prince was. I was completely in the dark on like a lot of the plot stuff. I don't know who this RAB or RAS, whatever the acronym. I don't know who that is. So let's put that on the shelf if that were to come up at some point.
It's
as
sure.
RAB.
I forget what it was. I thought
Yeah,
it was
RAB was the initials. I know who it is, so I won't say anything.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
I've mentioned it in a previous retro. I'll say that.
There you go. Don't listen to our last cast there, Dylan.
I delete everything. Where to go next? I guess one of the. Sorry, Kirklin. Sounds like you had somewhere to go.
No, I'll let you drive.
I guess we see Draco's mom for the first time in this movie. I don't think I really like a topic necessarily there. It's interesting that we see her. She has a really cool look. I like the design that they gave her with the.
It's kind of like Corella-esque.
Yeah, it kind of is.
The
I
hair.
guess. I hadn't thought about that, but I do remember her from Deathly Hallows. I forgot she was in this movie, so it was.
She just
cool to see
passed
her
away
in front.
recently too. The actress that
Oh,
played
really?
her. Yeah.
Oh,
I
really?
didn't know that. I don't really recognize. I don't know what her real name is, so I'm not too sure there. The other, I guess, big character in this movie is Horace Slughorn, the character who I talked about, who I just had no memory of. I think he's quite interesting because he's not a villain. He's not even really an antagonist, but he's done some bad things, and he's just like very misguided in his ways. But also, he seems a bit careless. So I like him from the perspective that he has some dynamic nature to him. Although I have quite a few problems with like how his character is used.
It's
throughout
all
the movie.
purely accept. It's the one thing you have to understand with this character.
Yeah, I guess so. Hey, that's his excuse for everything. But Taylor, what do you think of Slughorn? Are you a fan of this character? I'm sure you like the couch scene when he pops out of the.
Yeah, that was kind of like unsuspecting, but I mean, like, sorry, I got a cat that came in here. Parker, out.
Taylor's.
He's
snogging with the cat.
he's an interesting character.
It's wrangling right now.
Leave the cat alone.
Out. Come on.
Out.
Okay, we're good.
Does he think like shit or something?
No, only on Saturday nights. So as far as Slughorn goes, he's yeah, he's like silly, and he means well, but yeah, his ethics are kind of out of the box. They're not very well practiced. It's funny because he just gets excited about things, but I mean, he caught red-handed stealing in this movie. So he's definitely not someone I would trust, especially the fact that he likes to socialize with celebrities and maybe you'll make the shelf, and just, he's got so many qualities that are not prized in my opinion. But that being said, he does have a very compassionate side. He loves Harry's mom for just the magic she was able to do and that sort of stuff. So he definitely has that side that he wants to do good and be great, but he's never going to be able to mount to that because he's just caught in his crazy little bubble that he's in. I mean, especially at Aragog's funeral, he's just like, oh, can I siphon some of this? Purely academic, of course, but.
Did Aragog, side note, does Aragog seem like really tiny to you guys?
Oh, he shrunk.
I remember thinking that in
his
the
old
movie
age.
too. Yeah, totally. He's curled up, maybe.
Yeah, that's
more.
true.
He's
not
aged
shrouded
a whole
in darkness.
5 years. Come on.
There you go.
In your last couple of years.
It's probably like 25 years for a spider. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, yeah, for a spider that big.
Reverse dog years. For
I don't know what spider
Reverse
years are like.
They can live unfortunately too long. I remember one time.
You were talking
side
about
note.
dogs at first.
Oh
yeah. Major
no,
bomb.
definitely not spiders. I remember one time there was a big spider that crawled in my closet, and I'm like, okay, let's check out like how long he could probably live for, and then maybe I'll just tough it out and just outlast him. It was like 30 years or something, and I'm like, oh no, I gotta go in
30.
there and battle him or
30,
something. Yeah, for the the wood spiders located in this
Oh,
area of the
no.
world. Anyways, back to Harry Potter. What were we talking about? Refresh me.
Slughorn.
Slughorn. Yeah,
Sluggy.
I don't know how I feel about him, honestly, because I like a
feel the
lot of
same.
like a lot of his like type comedic bits are fun. He just kind of feels like a doofus, even though he's like very knowledgeable about the potions side of things. But he just feels like he's got his head in his clouds, and like a lot of the time, I feel like he kind of fits that persona of just like the scientist that's just like so got his head in his work, where he just doesn't really have sociable skills, but then he throws these like sociable parties, so then I'm like, oh, okay, then he is social, but he just feels very awkward. So yeah, I feel like I don't know how to feel about him. Just his placement in this movie I really liked, just because of like his dynamic with the other characters. Specifically with Harry, I really liked how Harry was just the trooper with Dumbledore basically tasking him to just get to know him, and I like their dynamic, like when they're on screen together. But for Slughorn, just as a guy, I think I'm in Taylor's camp. I feel like I'd be a little sus about him. Although if he invited me to like his private gala thing, I'd probably be pretty hyped. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, he's a weird guy.
He hires students to be staff at his parties. That's just
That's awesome.
that's crazy.
Maybe it's like work credits or
Hey,
something.
man. Yeah, it's
maybe
maybe
like
for them to make some money. Maybe
10 points to Gryffindor if you be my
Yeah,
butler.
true.
or, like
It's on
gets like
your resume.
yeah.
Shine my
Just like a
shoes for
normal
50
student job.
points.
I'm sure Neville could use a good recommendation from a potion maker, right? That'll probably help him in his field in the future.
Isn't he
He
about
was-
herbology?
Well, yeah, but that's part of it, right? Herbology and potions go hand in hand, right? Wouldn't you want some?
Can you
some
confirm,
good-
Jessica? Do they?
Well, he takes herbs to make potions
That's true.
in this
Not
movie.
gillyweed. He doesn't make a potion out of that.
But yeah,
No, he
swallows
just
that
downs
whole-
it. Just gulps it.
Legit, Slughorn is caught red-handed stealing things from the damn palm tree to make potions.
All
with.
right. That's true.
Purely
I-
accidental, though.
I think you're maybe onto something. Maybe it's the other way around, where like the potion people should know something about herbology, maybe not the opposite. But I feel like they kind of go hand in hand in some way.
So I think, I like Slughorn's character in a few ways. I mean, he's, the kooky. He's just really kooky, and it's
Mhm.
fun to watch. Seeing kind of how one-track minded he is. Like everything is just about potions. That's the best. Maybe for me, I'm a collector too. Like I like sets. I have to have sets of everything. So I have, my sets of cups. I have my sets of books. I have sets of, books that maybe I've only read one of them, but I need all three of them because I like to have a set. So maybe I just get it. That being said, you have to kind of look at some of the things that they show, him hoarding and stealing and wanting to, keep these things. I mean, that leads up to why he has the drink that he doesn't give to Dumbledore, right? It gets used on Ron. So he's kind of just showing. Sorry, now I'm having cat problems.
Oh,
Just-
no.
They all move at once.
I wish I had a cat in my house to have cat problems with.
You can take mine.
Sure, send them down.
There's FedEx.
Yeah,
So I can understand how he might be a bit of an arrogant character, but I do think he plays a really good kind of medium. Like you said, it showing the Horcruxes, because that's kind of the relationship that he gets with the students that do really well. The, being a stop to that poison to Dumbledore. Off the top of my head, really, that's actually all I'm thinking of. But
okay. Yeah, I kind of have a bone to pick with this character, but I think I'll bring that up later because it probably be good to go through some other things first.
I mean, you've already mentioned it.
Pick the bone.
Yeah, Okay, we can get into it. So I think this is kind of my like biggest issue with the movie, and I think this is why it feels disconnected, as I said in my opening thing. So the first so you have your intro sequence that's maybe like 15, 20 minutes long before they get to Hogwarts, and there's some classic Harry Potter intro stuff going on there, and then like your next like pretty much like 2/3 of the movie is just hanging out at Hogwarts, and there's very little going on in a way. Like it's just people going to classes. There's Quidditch stuff going on. There's people hanging out. There's like new students, walking around the school, and I love that. I think that's really interesting. That's stuff that I miss in a lot of the other movies. But I think maybe one of my problems is that really the big like plot thing that we're waiting on there is for Harry to get close to Slughorn so that he can reveal this information so that the plot can progress and Harry and Dumbledore can go do their thing. But I feel like, and maybe you guys can convince me otherwise, but I feel like a lot of this Slughorn plot is pretty weak, and it's just based on like this whole thing that the goal for Harry and Dumbledore throughout this whole movie, and they wait months and months and months in order to get to the point where they can do it, is to extract like this correct memory, and that's all kind of based upon the premise that Slughorn was able to modify one of his other memories. And I'm just really confused about how that works exactly. So, I mean, I guess it's assumed at some point that Slughorn took that memory out of his head and shared it in a way that Dumbledore has it, which already seems kind of weird. But then if he's going to like tamper with the memory, wouldn't he just get rid of it? Wouldn't he, I don't know, do more than like just blur two specific words that make him look super sus? Wouldn't he like change the way that whole conversation goes? And then even at the end, like when Harry exits out of Slughorn, how come like 40, 50 years later, he can remember verbatim how that conversation went and to perfectly fill in those blanks? Like, to me, it felt pretty contrived and didn't really make a whole lot of sense. And it just felt like I'm not going to say we wasted time because I like that part of the movie, but it feels like a lot of wasted time for a kind of weak plot point.
In my initial counter, I'd say him remembering it like word for word and exactly how it went, that doesn't come to a surprise, because if you were responsible for the Dark Lord learning this piece of magic, like the Dark Lord, I feel like, especially with how much it weighs on his conscience, he remembers it and probably thinks about it every single day because he regrets his decisions about talking about it. As for him like rechanging the scene, I mean, he did a little bit.
I'm gonna instantly counter on that, because at the time when he had that conversation, he didn't know immediately that would be like one of the world destroying things, that conversation was what ruined it all. So why would he have made that conscious memory?
But we don't know, do we, exactly when? Like, let's say he needed to kill 7 people, split his soul 7 times. Do we know exactly when he went out and killed his first person? It could have been like as soon as he graduated or while he was at school. Again, I don't know the specifics on that, really. I don't know anyone public as the Dark Lord.
Yeah. Well, I guess
it could just be part of the magic of it, right? You know, we've seen many flashbacks where there's memories of all these people, in a court. And so what, can this person's memory just magically pull out every person's face and expression and everyone's whispering perfectly? Maybe that's
always when Dumbledore like throws that thing into the, I forget what the little bowl is called. Yeah, like that's different, right? Because that's Dumbledore, whenever we see that, I've seen that in previous movies, he pulls it out of his brain like immediately after a thing happens. That way he can in theory remember what that thing is, and it would make sense that he can like remember all these details. I guess you're right that you wouldn't probably remember every single person's face, but that would probably look weird if there was just like blurred people or something. But yeah, I think that there's a difference between pulling something out of your mind right away, putting it into a thing, and this guy who we've talked about is already kind of eccentric and crazy, pulling something out of his brain from I don't know how long ago. I assume it's like 40 years. Maybe that's way off. Maybe it's only like 10 years. I guess it must be at least 12, because that's when that's how long like Voldemort was gone for, right? But you would assume that it's like probably 30 years or something like that or more.
So are you feeling like the memory he pulled out to give to Harry you don't believe that it'd be that accurate word for word?
I think it comes off silly that the reason that Harry and Dumbledore can't get that information is because specifically like 2 words are kind of blurry in that memory, and it's like, well, dude, if you're trying to obscure this memory, wouldn't you, well, A, remove it, obviously that kills the whole plot, but wouldn't he like change it so that he says something completely different and there's nothing suspect in that scene?
Yeah, you're right. The only suspicious thing is when he like blurts out Tom Riddle's like phrasing, but he does change it where he goes like, I've never heard such magic. Like, get out of here. Like, I've never. So I'm not.
You put your name in the cup of the fire.
Why wouldn't he like modify the dream to like end there then? And then that's like, oh, okay, I guess
It's
I'm
true.
good,
He did like
I mean,
50% of the job. He didn't finish
really,
it off.
you don't know what to extent, like what extent he could really change the memory, right? Like maybe he had it and then he had to go back and edit it. They don't talk about the movie, so it's just guessing.
They don't.
Yeah.
And it came across as incredibly cheesy. And that's what the plot was hinging on for a good hour, was like those 2 words to be unobscured so that we could understand. Like, I already feel like, I mean, wouldn't Dumbledore know about Horcrux? Like, maybe he would have come up with some solution or something, but instead they had to do this whole thing where Harry gets close to Slughorn, and I don't know. It felt weird, and that was why the movie felt disconnected to me, because that's like what we're doing for the, like, obviously there's other little scenes with the Weasley house getting burned down, and we take other things with the plot, and obviously Draco's doing his thing, but for the most part the characters are just kind of hanging out, and Harry's just like talking to Slughorn every once in a while, and then it takes this huge shift once they have this information. I think maybe it just needed to be shot differently or something, but it just comes across as very cheesy to me that we get like blurred out a couple words, and then like they just kind of get fixed in there, and then everything's good.
Okay, so from what the internet states, is because we already knew that Dumbledore knew about the Horcruxes. That I think I even mentioned that in one.
Well,
of the
he
previous ones.
specifically says he doesn't know until that moment. Maybe he's lying. He's been a liar.
I think he might have like an inkling, and then when he actually hears the Horcruxes, he's like, "Oh shit!" And then when he hears about 7, he's like, "Oh no!" Like that's just like.
Well, I think
So-
it
They knew
definitely
about
clicked in
Horcruxes?
because like his hand, right? So it clicked.
No, so he knew about the Horcruxes. That's not what he needed. What he needed was the number, that 7 that Kirklin just mentioned.
Oh,
They didn't know how many
Thank
pieces
you.
they had to find. Well, if you would have let me finish, I would have been the one to say the number, but I'll give you the credit.
Thank you. Rightfully so.
So yeah, so that was the importance of that memory, because that shows how many pieces he split himself into, because they can't kill Voldemort unless they get all the pieces first.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I remember correctly, he was already collecting the pieces in the last one, wasn't he?
Well, yeah. Like I mean,
Well,
when he
in
meets
this one,
him,
that's when he
his
goes on his
hands
trips,
all
right?
like when he first meets Harry, his hands all fucked up. So clearly he's been busy
Yeah.
doing something. It's not just from beating the bishop or something. But
the bishop.
I like the whole thing revolving like Harry, trying to schmooze Slughorn and all that stuff. I feel like the whole process of that I just liked. So for me, I just ate it up, and it wasn't too bothersome for me. But like also, Dylan brought up some good points. Like when you think back to like if Dumbledore already knows like about the Horcruxes, I don't know, like
Because
Like,
that's,
in
that's
retrospect-
why his hand's rotting, right? Is it
Yeah.
from one of the Horcruxes?
he was trying
So,
to destroy it. Yeah.
Mhm.
He
Well,
put,
he
yeah,
did
he put
destroy
it
it.
on.
He
He
didn't
put it
destroy
on,
it.
and that's why his hand started to rot.
He said he
Yeah.
did destroy it.
What
Yeah.
did he destroy?
The ring?
The ring, yeah.
But it's right there. Isn't it still there?
It's
Mm.
destroyed.
It is destroyed, and it was at the risk of like because of what happened to his hand, right?
But isn't it like spinning around on the table and stuff? Like Harry tries to mess with it too, doesn't he?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that because I was under the impression the only reason why I did that was because Harry himself is a Horcrux, so it's like 2 Horcruxes touching, they just like start
Yeah.
popping off. But then again, you'd think that the Horcrux is still active because if it was
Yeah, I-
destroyed, it wouldn't be doing
But
that.
he says like even more difficult to destroy, and he holds up his hand, right?
It's like get
Yeah,
out of my
but he-
face, it smells.
I mean, I just took it as he tried but failed because he was.
Oh,
Because he doesn't. If he knew how to destroy them, he would have told Harry, right?
Oh, yes, but maybe it was too powerful of magic that Harry couldn't do yet. And I only say this because we don't see the ring get destroyed
Well, no,
later
no.
on.
I mean, we've talked about how Dumbledore holds back information, but he wouldn't hold back. Hey, here, Harry, here's how you take out a Horcrux.
Oh, he holds back information like
He
even
avoids
now
Harry
he's
for, like,
dead,
3
and he's
movies,
still
yeah.
holding back information, as
But
we'll
what would be the
learn.
reason for him holding that back? Other times it's like it's maybe faulty logic, but like he at least has some logic to it. What would be the logic of him not sharing that crucial Earth-saving information about how to destroy Horcrux?
Well, so how do you destroy a Horcrux? Because we don't know,
Well, yeah, if he
right?
knew, he probably would have been able to do it.
Well,
so he
Basilisk.
I don't think.
Well,
Well,
we'll get into
no,
that.
it's yeah, exactly. We'll get into that.
We'll
in a
get
little
into
bit.
that.
But just getting back to Slughorn, you asked like when that was. So it looks like he was mentoring Tom Riddle like 1940s. So that's like 50 years before the events of like these movies. So that's a good amount of time.
Yeah. Can you remember a conversation you had earlier today verbatim? I don't know, man. I feel like going back 50 years is pretty
I was
fucked
thinking
up,
about
even
the
if you're
memory
a
thing.
wizard.
I was thinking about the memory thing. Again, it's magic, so you can always throw in that little asterisk to anything that they try and sell to the movie. But also, like, maybe he's tapping into like his just like deep memory, because like they say that you somewhere in your brain captures everything that you've ever experienced. You just don't have access to it. Maybe that's what it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think better would have been like if he just had saved that memory elsewhere, and like Harry's goal was to get close enough to Slughorn that he could know where he hid it and grab it that way. And like him pulling it out of his head 50 years later, it just I don't know, it just does not work.
Just didn't work for you. Yeah, I liked like the whole lead up to that though. Obviously Harry does the whole liquid luck thing. I feel like that whole that whole sequence was just amazing.
I love all those scenes too. Yeah.
Like when he kind of starts getting like emotional thinking about Lily, and then eventually like even when like Harry's like won him over, he's like, I just can't share that memory, like it'll just ruin me, you know, like it's just such a heavy weight bearing down on me. And then Harry kind of like steps up and like starts just like talking shit, like, oh, if you just hold this information, like you're basically just spitting on my mom's grave, like to that extent,
Hagrid's
right?
just fucking drunk, passed out in the room.
I think they just left him there, or did they like Wingardium Leviosa him to like the couch or something? He's just. I feel like he'd wake up with such a like dry throat when he wakes up.
That might be my favorite sequence in the whole movie. Lucky Harry is just my favorite thing. Just his swagger.
Yeah.
The way when Slughorn like is talking to him in the hallway and he's walking away, he's like crouched over in a really weird way. I love the pincers thing that he does with Aragog. I just love the stupid grin he has on his face. I think Lucky Harry is
no 100%
my favorite. Like if we do rankings at the end, we're talking about favorite characters. Lucky Harry is high up there.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 10 out of 10.
You can't expect me to let you go out alone at this time at night. Well, then you better come with me.
Yeah. He's like, Harry, sir, and he's just like, I love it though. Like, as soon as he like pops the little potion, like, how do you feel? Just like it's just like the scene just seems brighter. Like the music gets all like uplifting, and yeah, I love all that.
You think that'd be the right kind of potion to take if you're gonna go fight Voldemort? Like just down a 2 liter of that, and you're good.
2 liter.
I mean, there's gotta be some kind of asterisk to it, or else people just use it 24/7 all the time, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It seems
like
another
bad
one of those things that's super overpowered.
It's one of those like limitless drugs where it's like you start getting addicted to it and you like
you take that, you take the time turner, you just become God. Like you can do anything in the world.
Yeah, man. I don't think I had anything else on
no transition there. That's all good. I don't know. I think I made my points. It didn't work for me. I still I love that. I just love it felt like a TV show with them just hanging out at Hogwarts. It felt like a slice of life movie where there's nothing really going on. Obviously there is stuff going on, but it's more just minor character building stuff. And I didn't really like the plot part with Slughorn, but I mean, there's a lot to dig into with that whole sequence. I mean, even though there isn't tons of story necessarily, like, what do you guys think of just all the time we get to hang out at Hogwarts and have some character moments? We get a bunch of relationship drama. I'm sure you guys love that stuff like me.
I ate all that up. And again, I feel like it's because the last 2 movies kind of got away from just like what the first 2 movies had of just like you're just at a magic school. Like that in and of itself is just amazing. And then you just get these world ending events. The whole shit show with last movie, I feel it's just like, oh, I'm never gonna see just my friends chat with Seamus and just being, homies again back in the common room. But then in this one, like they actually have a lot of that. There's a lot of comedy in this movie, specifically like comparing it to actually there is comedy in the last movie, but I feel like it just didn't work on me as well as this time around. So I was just eating all that stuff up. There's a lot of just like super cheesy, cringy, like type of high school like romance going on, and I was just like,
Oh,
this is
yeah.
awesome. You know, like I like this just to have this like sprinkled in between like a battle with Voldemort or like some serious Death
Yeah.
Eater type stuff, the death of Sirius. Like I feel like it was just refreshing. It like it gives you a chance to just like catch your breath, because going forward from this movie, like it's just like serious. No pun intended there. But
Oh.
so I really liked all the Hogwarts stuff.
That one scene in this film when Harry and Ron are just shooting shit like on their spare period and they're just
Yeah, man.
laughing. Like I love that when
Shit-eating
McGonagall
grins.
like,
Yeah, in
oh
the
yeah,
hallway.
McGonagall's just like, take Ron with you. He looks far too happy.
Yeah.
Like, and
Like
then
all those lines, I was like laugh out louding. Like
it's really good. It really is. When they get into Slughorn's class, like
love that
it's
sequence.
such a realistic dynamic. You fight for the good copy of the
Oh,
textbook,
I've been there.
right?
I've been there. Yeah, 100%.
Everyone's fought in those battle lines.
Some have fallen in those battle lines.
The best have.
What about you, Jessica?
Like I'm looking at my notes right now. I have really nothing about this. So to me, obviously, it wasn't a huge thing that I was missing out on. Didn't feel like I was being deprived because I didn't have the slice of life piece of this movie. And in fact, I mean, like, what did really the whole lavender brown thing really do besides, I guess, eventually show that Ron and Hermione like each other?
I think it was a good reflection of a relatable scenario where you're in high school and you go through that dynamic and it's not real.
He's the man now, he's just floozies are coming to his side. No, but I felt like it's just such like a thing that I've seen in so many type of sitcoms or something, where it's like there's two characters that they're gonna get together, and then when it makes sense that they're gonna get together, they just like introduce this another character that just like falls in love with one of them, and then you're like, well, I know that it's not gonna last. It's just like to complicate things a bit, and that's exactly what I felt from her. Again, first time I watched this, I thought she was so fucking annoying and I hated her. And that's exactly what they cast her for. So big props to the actress in that regard, because I was able to appreciate it this go around. Just like how, my one and just like all of that stuff. It's like, this is so terrible, but it's so good. Like I was just eating it up. So I really liked her. In that
She
regard.
says my Ron wand.
Wand, like WON.
WON. Ron. And what's the
No.
second word she says?
Just no
Wand.
Rons. Yeah.
Ron.
No R's.
No,
Wand.
WW.
Wand. It takes one to know one.
Wand. Oh, I thought she was saying like Ron Wand,
Like
and I was like, what? Like is that a
JUAN, Taylor.
penis mention? Like,
Yeah, she just walks around calling him his penis. That's so funny.
I do want to say her character. Yeah, I agree with you what you were talking about, Kirklin. But when Ron is basically on the medical bed in the infirmary, and they're just like she's fighting with Hermione, and he just when Ron just starts to say Hermione, and she just loses her shit, and Dumbledore's comment is just so great. Like to be young and in love, like it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
I'll take it. I'm with you, Jessica, and I agree plot wise. Really, there's not much going on there, and it's not necessary. I think the idea of it is simply that I guess it was 2 movies ago now, but 2 movies ago Hermione had Crumb, and they were kind of doing their thing, and Ron clearly didn't like it. And then we took kind of a break from that, where they kind of were getting started, and then it kind of just switches the scales back the other way, where Ron gets something, and I don't know. I mean, I see where you're coming from plot wise, but I really enjoy that. Like, I think it's just a fun dynamic to see, and it's interesting that happens so late in these movies that you kind of get a large chunk of this movie that isn't really advancing the Voldemort plot, but it's just character building stuff, and I'm definitely down for the character building stuff. Shout outs to Seamus blasting himself in the face again. We haven't seen that in a long time. I think this is the 3rd time it's happened. All good things happen in threes like that. So I like to see that again.
Absolutely terrible method of like throwing things into a cauldron. He's
He
just
hasn't
like
learned.
totally head over
he has
it.
not learned.
Like, come on.
That's like number one. Like when you open the valve on the Instapot, you don't have your head right over.
Oh,
Like,
no.
Especially because it wasn't called like liquid death or something.
liquid
Like,
death, yeah.
Liquid death, exactly.
Jessica. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I just because it's kind of on topic. We do get some Luna scenes. I like some of them, like that she's rocking the lion costume, and we see some other stuff with her. Not much. I would have wanted more, but I understand why. The one thing I'm kind of bummed out. We see a lot of this character development stuff. Like once again, Ginny gets a lot of good screen time. I was a little bummed that we didn't see really any. I don't know if Neville has a line in this movie. He doesn't say anything, or maybe he has a quick line.
He's the waiter.
Oh no, and
It's
yeah,
true, there
he's
you
the
go.
waiter. And then when Ron's all nervous before his first game, he's like, "Good luck today, Ron."
There you go. Well,
Yeah, there you
there's
go.
2 lines, but it felt like in the
He's
last
got a
movie.
minute and 30 screen time here. Come on.
Ooh, that's decent.
A minute 30 more than I had. For the last 2 movies at least, it felt like he was becoming a really crucial character to the story, and he is in Deathly Hallows. I do remember that. But I would have liked a little bit more substantial something for him to do in this movie. Maybe even just a scene with him and Luna, because obviously there's kind of something going on there. Maybe that stuff was cut for time because this movie is already pretty freaking long. So that was really the only character I felt like I was missing. And then also, this one's not as important, but we talked about last time, Cho didn't really ever get that conclusive ending, and she's just not in this movie. It's fair, it doesn't really matter, but I still think it's weird that we ended on that character without like any sort of resolution. It seems like maybe an oversight, and then they're like, well, we're not going to fix it this movie. We would have had to do that last time. So those are my notes on the kind of Hogwarts sequence of this movie. Jessica, you had something to say before, or we just go to another topic?
I mean, I feel like, you can only fit so much in. Like, you want all these scenes with Lavender showing the slice of life. And, we talk about liking the scenes with Draco, and this is where, we start to get more of Ginny and her relationship with Harry. We finally get a really good, all this stuff with Draco it was really important. And also the addition of, Slughorn, even though you didn't like that, but you can only build so many characters at once. So, who do you take out of that to give more screen time to Neville? And I mean, I forgot about Cho. I don't care. She's gone, whatever. So to me, I would take away screen time to give it to her.
I mean, if I, when I was watching these movies as a kid and, it came out a year later, I probably didn't care because who would remember her thing? But I think just in the nature of doing these retros, it seems weird that she doesn't really have any sort of ending. Maybe she comes back. I don't remember. But I mean, you're right. Like this movie is long. Again, this is what, 2.5 hours. If you take out the credits, 240 or something, with the credits. Yeah. So it's one of the longest, if not the longest movie. And yeah, I don't know. Like I like a lot of stuff. I don't really know what I would cut. I wouldn't really want to cut anything to get other stuff. But I mean, realistically, that's not necessarily. I mean, maybe that's how it went. Maybe Neville had more scenes filmed and they got cut or something. But I guess he just didn't have a plot, or maybe whatever he did in the book whatever he did in this book didn't really fit in the screen time they had allotted here. So I think that's fair.
Jessica, I have a question. It's kind of going back to Lavender. Was she actually in the books? Maybe it's a stupid question, but okay, she was. So what was her character like in the books in comparison to what she was in this film? Was she supposed to be the same kind of persona in the books?
From what I remember, yeah.
Okay.
They talk about her hanging all over Ron, and then, whenever Hermione comes near, trying to snog with him.
Snog? Hermione was trying to snog with Ron at the time?
Yeah, that was the obvious between the two women that I'm discussing, that she was the one. No, Lavender.
I thought you said when Hermione was coming.
Skin.
Oh.
Yeah, you asked about Lavender. So
Lavender's trying to make
coming.
I thought you said Hermione was trying to snog with Ron. I was like, what, in the books? Ron
she wanted to
doing both dances at the same time? Whoa, Ron.
Ayo.
So, I
He's a lucky
mean,
guy.
I don't know if it was explicitly clear in this one, but, I believe she is using the love potion, right, on Ron. So it's not enough. That's why Ron's like, oh, don't get me wrong, I'm glad to be rid of her, but I just don't remember. So it's just there's no actual genuine kind of connection there.
I didn't know she dosed him. Was that said in the movie? Did I miss that?
Did
I
they
thought
say it?
I thought
in
he
the
just
movie?
didn't remember because he just like had a seizure and like died. And then I felt like he didn't remember like the night of the breakup when he was all like Hermione. And then that's why Hermione was kind of upset the next day. It's like, you don't remember any of that? Any of what happened? Oh, okay.
Well,
Back to
because
being awkward friends.
anytime Ron, like, she gives him all these cookies and things, right? Those all have the love potion built in. That's why the one time that Ron eats the cookies that were left for Harry on the end of Harry's bed, Ron's in love with someone else
Hmm.
because it was.
I thought that was okay. I thought that was the only
A lot
time
of
he
love
got
potions
dosed.
going around.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, that's why they talk about it in the beginning, right? And all the girls are all slowly getting closer until he puts the lid on it.
Yes.
It'd be like extreme, and maybe this is borderline, but like I feel like that's like dangerous for women to do to guys. Just like it'd be dangerous for guys to do it to girls in the wizarding world. Like a potion
There's a
like
lot
that
of
should be
dangerous stuff.
illegal. It should really be illegal.
Of all the
No-
potions, that's the one, the fake love potion.
I mean, liquid death is totally fine apparently because you can put your head right over the
Polyjuice
cauldron.
potion and
Polyjuice
I think
potion.
I think it's
Li-
worse
the
to
liquid-
teach students how to perform Avada Kedavra. Personally,
Yeah,
that's like
use it live
a
in
few
class.
notches higher on the I shouldn't teach this list.
All right, pick a partner. Speaking of illegal things, what about like the use of magic in like Quidditch? I feel like that would be such a problem that like everyone would be doing, especially in like the World Cup scene where there's probably a lot of money
It
on
happens
these
in
games.
every game that we ever see.
Yeah. And like all it takes is Hermione just like fungus or whatever she says.
That was training though. That wasn't a live game.
Okay,
it
yes,
wasn't even
I was
training;
thinking
it was
about that.
tryouts.
It was tryouts. This
It's
is true.
trials, according to our British lads at Hogwarts.
Yeah, it is against rules. I think we talked about this. Whatever that one that we had a really long, in-depth.
The first
conversation.
one, yeah, I had like an hour and a half conversation on Quidditch.
Yeah, so it is illegal. You're not allowed to.
I'd imagine, they got some powerful like dispellers.
Yeah, I
or
mean,
whatever it might be.
Quirrell wasn't following the rules when he was, fucking with the first match.
Are you like saying in the off chance, Kirklin, that someone just starts shooting off Avada Kedavra from the bleachers and just starts,
No,
like, shooting
but,
down
like,
Quidditch players?
Let's look at Quirrell and what he did, and then let's put him in the seat of like a World Cup match where we got like the Bulgarians versus the Irish, and there's like 1,000 galleons.
He's a huge
on, like,
Irish fan.
Yeah, but like
I feel like that's probably a little different than you're kind of comparing the NFL or NHL or whatever to
One of
a
those
high
sports.
school basketball team.
True.
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 There's definitely a little more rules and referees and cameras.
Oh, definitely. I definitely think you're right.
I mean, we've already
I'm just like sus
we
about
already
that.
conclusively defined Quidditch as a shit game. Like, we did that in the first episode, so we don't need to
I
go
never
back
said
to
that.
it. So
I
like,
said
who
it's flawed.
cares? Who cares if like people are tampering? We should talk about the Quidditch stuff because this is like by far the best Quidditch is used in any of these movies because there's actually character development happening and it's not just Harry the Wonder Boy getting the snitch at all odds and making the rest of the game useless. But I love the use of it. Go ahead, Kirk.
I just want to say he's like player coach manager now. He's like running the team, running the trials, and he's still like the captain.
He's the new
like,
Oliver Wood, man.
I'm the reason that we win. I'm gonna catch the snitch. All of you guys are there to make me look good. Like he's the chosen
This
one.
is
It's so
exactly
funny.
what I said last time is that all of this stuff happens and we don't see any of it. So now all of a sudden they just kind of continue on as if we know all this information. So this was talking about, Ron was already a keeper last year. So Ron was trying out for the same position he already had. And Ginny is now the assistant.
Well,
captain.
I mean, no, not by the movie canon.
What do you mean not by the movie canon?
That didn't happen in the fifth movie. Like none of that exists. So it's not like it happened and we didn't see it. Just none of that happened. So this is the first time he's trying out, right?
I feel like there was
That's
definitely
true.
a comment that said something about him
I don't remember
before.
There quite possibly could have been a comment.
It seemed like it was
Thanks,
his first
Taylor.
year though, because he was just so like nervous about like the tryouts. And it's like I got Quidditch trials today, and then it's like I don't know. I feel like
I mean, I think it would be a big problem if that was an established thing. But I mean, just because it happened in the books, obviously there's a lot of changes. Like, as far as I'm concerned, the fifth movie or in the fifth year is just none of that happens. We don't know what happens with Quidditch, but like that stuff definitely doesn't happen. And
I mean, they also don't really, mention of anything. Harry's just captain now, and Ginny's just assistant captain.
Yeah.
So Ginny went from not playing to now she's assistant captain.
Oh, yeah.
With nothing happening.
Oh,
She's
something
got
happened between her and
benefits, yeah.
Harry.
Well, I mean,
Ayo,
Oliver.
you want to
at
be
some
my
point-
assistant captain?
At some point, Oliver, aged out of Hogwarts, and
Oh yeah, he's
Harry
in beer league
is
now.
really fucking good. So it would make sense that he would get promoted.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if we need this scene where they're like, "Here, you're the captain now." But I mean, yeah, I guess that could have happened in the last one, but we don't know because
I feel like Harry's like justification is truly unwarranted because like he knew that Hermione did that charm to make the other guy, whatever his name was, like flop, but he was clearly better than Ron. So Harry's like completely biased in selecting his teammates.
Oh, 100%. I don't think he would dispute that. I mean, maybe if you asked him straight up, but if you put a poison potion or one of those truth potions in front of him, I think he'd be saying that tale exactly. I think that was actually the last. I forgot about that note, but that was my last Hogwarts related thing. I don't think I've really any massive topics. Obviously there's Snape stuff we can talk about, but where do you guys want to go next?
Just before we do continue, this is one of the parts where they throw in that Easter egg where Harry is number 7 for Quidditch, and he is Horcrux number 7.
Oh,
Ooh.
interesting.
Yeah, so his Quidditch number is 7, and he is the 7th Horcrux. So
That
it's
is
kind
pretty
of a little...
unlucky, I would say, for him to get that number.
I mean, he probably picked it. He's the captain, so.
But it's unlucky that like that ended up being a pretty drastic number in the world.
Lucky
Well,
number 7.
Isn't it 8 Horcruxes? Because wasn't he the accidental one? Or is that just
Yeah.
you mean
Name 'em
like
all.
7 because there were 7 intentional ones?
Name them all, Taylor.
I think
right
I think what you just said there, yeah.
I don't want to
Too
name them all
long,
because
too
we're
long.
going into Deathly Hallows. I can't spoil it for Dylan.
That's true.
Yeah, from what I remember, there's like, the book is obviously one of them, the journal, I
What?
could say. And then like there's one for like each of the head people from
Each house.
Hogwarts, but yeah. I don't know. If you guys want to talk about that stuff, maybe just if
Let's
you
just
can
save
hold
it.
back on the whoever that person is, then I'm good to talk about. Because I mean, I was wondering like what is really needed to create a Horcrux, but I'm guessing that we kind of go into that in the next movie
Yeah.
anyway, right?
Yeah,
So
we'll go into
I don't
that.
know if there's really a point talking about it now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're gonna jump to our first ad break.
Have we done
Kirkland
a
so
single ad
graciously
break in
reminded.
any of these?
We've done
Um,
ads. in
We've
the
done at
past.
least one.
We've done one. Perfect.
It was with the Quirrell, like in the troll in the dungeon moment. That is the ad break in the first movie. So yeah, we're gonna jump to some ads right now, ladies and gentlemen. We don't pick the ads; they're loud, just in case. So just brace yourself. And we're back from the ads. What a great ad! All right, we're back at it.
My favorite advertisement. I love being sold products.
Speaking of
So-
ads, oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna go back to it because I actually went and looked up the script just because I was wondering
She's got the
And-
transcripts.
the full transcripts. Yep. It wasn't actually really a comment. It was Harry says just because you made the team last year doesn't mean you'll make the team this year, and then it turns to Ron standing there.
See, he's telling that to the
the
whole
team.
group, though. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. It
Right.
wasn't really a full.
He was just
Right.
making
But-
eye
but you're
contact with
making
Ron
a-
when he said it.
Yeah, you're making a good point that it's probably assumed then that Harry was the captain last year. So
Oh yeah. Even if Wood was still there,
I guess-
like, look at me. I'm the captain now.
I mean, yeah, Wood. Last time I remember, he took a pretty drastic fall. So I think
every match.
Oh, yeah.
Every match, he went straight to the infirmary.
he's tough. Yeah, what do you think he's up to right now?
He had to drop out of school. Like he dropped from his broom that time.
Oh, I think he's in like beer league Quidditch. You know, just probably got a gut now. Dropping off
Break a leg,
resumes.
Ollie.
Yeah.
Oh god.
I have
we
a
going?
question for you guys. How do you guys feel about this? Kind of going back to the start of the film, we're getting into Fred and George's establishment, their business. How do you guys feel about that?
I love it.
I love it. Yeah. No, absolutely. It's like a little beacon of hope in Diagon Alley when it's just all gross and decrepit and just abandoned, and then you just
rich
got that
people, these rich Weasleys, just flexing their wealth.
Yeah,
It's 100% what it's supposed to be. Even in the book, it's written that way too.
Yeah, and like even Harry does that comment of like it's probably something that everyone needs, you know, like to have that just joyous thing in these dark times, and it's just a really fun like scene of them going through all the different products that they're selling. Obviously, like we see a couple that we saw them like just like selling to kids in the hallways when they're back at Quidditch, like the one to like puke and get out of class or whatever it might be. So it's fun that they just took that and ran with it and made a business out of it, because that's how they pretty much left off in the last film, right? They're like, I don't think Hogwarts is or whatever the comment they says. I'm not even gonna try to paraphrase it, but I loved it. It was so fun.
Yeah, there's a quick shot in the movie where there's a kid using these little plates to climb a wall, and I thought it was funny because in the Lego Harry Potter game, that's like a huge mechanic in the games. Like it's you're probably climbing walls for a good like 20-30 minutes throughout those games if you bunch it all together. Like there's a lot of climbing with those things, but it's just like a 2-second shot in the movie. So I like that they really went all out when it comes to the games, taking inspiration wherever it comes.
Like that was one of the jokes that I enjoyed too. I mean, anytime Fred and George kind of do the same time, same words is always fun. But you know, how much? 5 galleons. You know, oh, what about for me? 5 galleons, but I'm your brother. Oh, 10 galleons.
Yeah.
It's just
perfect delivery.
Yeah.
100%.
And I mean, you know, it is kind of nice to get that piece of Fred and George as well, because we don't have any of them at Hogwarts, and I don't know, they were kind of that slight comic relief.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But you, Taylor, you brought it up. You have a high opinion on it.
I really enjoy it. Again, I just think it's funny how, I mean, they did the right thing. They set up a business that Voldemort doesn't need to break into and take anything from, unless he wants to get like that crazy black powder stuff or like some love potions. But I mean, no Death Eater needs any of that gear. So I don't know. Just what you said, Jessica, about them just being like the only dose of Fred and George we get in the movie was like right there. It just makes it such a really nice scene. And then it segues to Bork and Burks, and we get them playing Assassin's Creed on the rooftops, sneaking down like bird's eye view.
Yeah, do you guys have anything to like talk about with that kind of pre-Hogwarts section? We kind of glazed over it, but I didn't have a single note or thing to comment on other than Fred and George's place.
I really love the opening of like with the Warner Brothers symbol coming in, and it's just like Bellatrix's laugh and like I killed Sirius. Like it's just like, oh yeah, shit. The last movie ended like very dark, and then it starts with like the Death Eaters just going through London and like terrorizing. It's just like, holy shit. Okay, like it just really gets you into where we are in the series of like, okay, Voldemort's popping off. There's Death Eaters roaming. Like it's serious. And then it, you know, and then it transitions. I mean, you have like the little unbreakable vow between Severus and Narcissa, I think is her name.
Narcissia.
Narcissia.
That's a badass name. Oh my god.
That is a badass name. Probably a narcissist, unfortunately, but
right. Yeah.
Before we get too far away from it, that bridge. Here's another little fact. That is the Millennium Bridge. Hence built in the new millennia. Movies are supposed to take place in the 90s.
Yeah.
So
I thought you were going to say they really destroyed it.
Unwatchable.
That's a big plot hole, yeah.
They
I'm out. I'm not doing last two parts.
No.
My immersion.
But, you know, this movie, there is not a lot of Easter egg facts about it. like I've said pretty much all my pieces that I found on the internet already just from talking here. So it was pretty slim. It's not like some of the other ones where I had very long lists. So
Yeah.
How'd you
can't get too picky.
How'd you guys feel about that girl getting stood up? Dumbledore just straight up told Harry, like, she's a pretty girl, but like, we're out of here.
I have it in my notes that I would have loved to have seen that date. Because she's like, you can tell me all about that, whatever.
That Tossa.
Harry Potter. Like, I would have loved to just have seen Daniel Radcliffe shit on Harry Potter for an hour and a half of this date.
Yeah. That would have been an awkward date. It would have been a good one to see.
Let his friend Cedric die.
Starts crying.
Just a failure.
Just starts bawling.
Oh my
I
God.
hate him so much.
On second thought, I don't want that. That sounds bad. I like Harry in this movie. I don't want that.
Yeah, no. Just
ahead.
one last comment on. I mean, you mentioned it earlier when Lav like runs away from like the med bed, and Dumbledore just has his little comments here and there, like just regarding like teen love. It's like if I take a step back, it kind of seems like strange that like this just he's pretty much like an all-knowing wizard. You know, he's like the most powerful wizard other than Voldemort. I don't know who they claim is stronger or whatnot, but like he's like this. Especially in the first couple movies, he just feels like this presence of just an all-knowing one. And then he's just like making these sly little comments, whether it's like in the beginning of the movie to Harry, it's like, she was mighty pretty, but like, unfortunately, you're just sorry, man. Like, you're not coming back for this date. And then again with Lav, I feel like if I take a step back, I like shouldn't like that because it just feels weird for that character. But in the moment, I just like ate it up and I was giggling.
I think it's a good thing you mentioned that, because even when he resets the Muggle's house, when it was all destroyed, when Slughorn was hiding there, he even says like, that was fun. Like, to me, and we know
And his
now in
magazine,
retrospect,
like, can I have this? I love,
Yeah.
you know, I'm working on my knitting or whatever.
he just seems to me at this point where we know that he's not going to make it out. He knows what needs to be done, in short. But to me, in retrospect, I feel like he's in this position where he knows that it's his end time is coming, and he's just really humbled and just kind of just down to earth and just appreciating really simple things, from being that all like not dying anytime soon wise one to being my time is limited, I'm just going to soak in everything that's really serene and simple in life that makes me happy. So I kind of like how he acts in that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that explanation of it because I mean, I'll bring it up again, a moment that he has between him and Severus, like near the very end, that I've kind of have a question on it, because I feel like I know the way that he was meaning it, but I'm not 100% sure. But you just mentioning, because like it seems like up to this point he's had a plan and it's all kind of going according to his plan. It seems like he isn't revealing certain things to a lot of people because he knows that if he tells one person something, like it'll change the events. Specifically like with Harry, Severus, and just like that whole dynamic of like Harry's very sus about Severus, but you know, Severus is doing it for the greater good, which is kind of something that for the kids, something that Dumbledore's pretty much been doing since the beginning. But yeah, I was kind of rambling there. I forgot my initial point, but I agree with you, Taylor.
Yeah, I think Taylor worded that perfectly. And I think it does go a long way, you know, for all the issues I've talked about with Dumbledore throughout the series. I don't have any with him in this movie. I think his character is really interesting. I think it adds, you know, like we see that we talked about with Draco, how he can't pull the trigger and take him out. And I think it's little moments like that that make you understand why, that even someone like Draco still has a lot of love and affection, or maybe I shouldn't say love, but he still has affection for like Dumbledore, respect, just because he's spent, you know, all these years with him. And I think that goes a long way. And I think you're right that he does realize it's near the end. And I think I don't have any issues with him, unless you're right that he knows how to destroy the Horcruxes and he doesn't tell Harry. That would be my only issue if that is true, which I don't see it that way.
You got your finger up. Go ahead.
Just you mentioning like that little standoff between Dumbledore and Malfoy, and it's interesting because when you think back to like movie 2, when Draco was just shitting on Dumbledore, and when it's like Harry and Ron as Crabbe and Goyle, and he's like, oh, you think there's someone worse than Dumbledore? Like he just seems, and again, he's only in year 2, so it's not like he can have an actual opinion of this guy, right? And then so it's just 100% information that his dad or his mom or both of them probably just fed to him. And then now we're in year 6 where he's literally been going to school and dealing, like not directly with Dumbledore, but he at least, you know, probably garnered some respect from him there, and just like
at the very least unconsciously, you know?
Exactly, and like just gaining his own thoughts about the guy, and I feel like it's very much shown in that last standoff. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Dylan, because I 100% agree with you, because it totally made me think of like kind of what Malfoy's been through. He's definitely been in the bleachers the last few movies, so we don't get to see hands on where he was, but just from what I had in the second movie when he's talking about Dumbledore to where he is now. Like, because I feel like in the second movie, the way he was talking, it seemed like he could kill Dumbledore right then and there, right? Because he just had so much
needed to know the spell.
Yeah, you needed Barty Crouch Jr. as Mad-Eye Moody to teach it to him in second year. But
yeah, it's nice to see a dynamic Draco.
I'm sure his dad taught him the spell. Like,
probably, yeah.
Oh yeah, probably on like family animals or something like that. Like that's how he would train them or something.
Yeah. Ugh, that's dark.
Yeah.
So can I touch on a couple things, because this conversation jumped a few places.
Oh yeah, I was making that word count. I'm trying to hit the max.
So you started out this whole conversation many moons ago about his comment for like Lavender Brown and whoever the other one was. But you didn't mention he does make one about Hermione too. When he brings Harry to his office and he's just like, "So you and Miss Granger."
Yeah. Nope, which is the relationship that should have happened.
But on kind of the other side of that, I don't necessarily see it as him dying now and changing that relationship. I think this is just the Dumbledore we have supposed to have had this whole time. Because if you think back to the first one, when Harry's lying in the bed and Dumbledore comes and sits down and starts eating the Bertie Bott's every flavored beans, he's just, oh, earwax. And, I just think that's supposed to be the relationship that has supposed to have been built, is, what Dylan's been looking for every single movie is, I think, what is supposed to have been portrayed. And this one is just, they put in the time to finally do it.
Yeah, and
like, what I think.
I was thinking about that too when I had these they're literally like a duo in this. Like they go on adventures, like from the when Harry's back in Muggle Land, like who's the guy that takes him back, like classic Dumbledore. But I was thinking about that though, especially since Dylan's brought it up a few times of just like, where the hell was Dumbledore, and like why wasn't he just talking to Harry about these instances? Now again, you can think back to the last movie. I think it's the last movie when he's like, "I'm sorry, Harry. Like, I thought I'd protect you if I just fucked off for a couple of years," or whatever the hell he says to him. And like thinking back to it, I'm like, oh, that's weak. I don't know if I like that. But again, it gives you screen time to show other events and characters, so I understand it. But no, definitely, I agree with you, Jessica. Like these moments, I feel like we had to wait to this movie to get these, like, I don't know, things, and they kind of explain it.
I think it's how it's supposed to be, because that's, like I have it in my notes too, that at the one point in the tower when Dumbledore's going, trust me, Harry, you need to trust me. And it's just like, there was not enough bonding for this level of trust. Like, it's been this one movie that we've really kind of got those pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And
I would say the last movie gave us a lot of that foundation though, in a pretty solid way, especially that ending sequence where he's like literally saving him from Voldemort.
Yeah, but I mean, in 6 years, one event is not.
Well, yeah.
To just blindly trust him.
He killed his bird too. That's
I think
relationship.
I think they're just, you've brought it up the entire time. So I'm just, in retrospect, the scene with the mirror, where they talk about bonding and what Harry sees and what Dumbledore sees, and then him eating the beans at the edge of the bed. I think had we just had, 30 seconds, 45 seconds sprinkled in here and there of little bit more hearts to heart, it would have made this more impactful. The whole having to shovel the drink down his mouth, and then Dumbledore saying, trust me, and him being trustful. But also it would have made the last one more impactful if all of a sudden now we have no scenes of Dumbledore because Dumbledore is trying to take a step back. So
Mhm.
this is the movie, like before it didn't really bother me. I was like, yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
Mhm.
This one, it finally hit where I was like, okay, we really needed those scenes to kind of build
Yeah.
up to making this trust me work.
Yeah, I think you nailed it exactly. It's that it's like for most of those movies or those problems I had, you guys brought up some great counterpoints of like, well, maybe like they spent all this time with them, like they probably are developing this bond or something like that. But it feels like in those movies there's a lot of blanks that you have to fill in for that character to make a lot of sense, and then obviously they have to go through a major transition that isn't the filmmaker's fault in any way. That's like, how do you deal with having to replace that crucial
Mhm.
character? But in this movie, we get all those blanks filled in. There isn't anything left out that is super crucial. Anything where it's like, oh, Dumbledore's off doing some adventures. Well, we find out where he was. Maybe not like exactly where he was. We don't find out like the Google Maps pin of where he is, but we get enough info to know like what he's been doing when we don't see him on screen. So obviously they had to stick the landing. It's a really important character, and I'm glad that they did. And yeah, obviously I had a lot of issues with that character, and it would have been nice to see more of it. But it always comes back to that thing where it's like there's so many characters in this movie, there's so much plot, there's so many side things that you gotta make cuts somewhere. And I think it kind of sucks that they made those on Dumbledore a lot of the time, but at least they stuck the landing and it with like the last half of this previous movie and then this one. So good job there to the filmmakers. Kirkland, you said you had a question regarding him and
Yeah.
Snape. What was that?
I mean, it's probably gonna be a quick answer because I was like thinking back to like the next couple movies, and I feel like it's been answered. So like the last basically thing that Dumbledore says to Snape is like, please, and like just the like mannerism that he had, like that's basically just telling him like, please, dude, like kill me right now. Like this is your job. This is what we talked about. This is what you have to do. And again, like they do the wordplay thing. Not quite to the full extent that we had in the Prisoner of Azkaban, where it's kind of like throwing you for a loop of like he's begging for his life, which, I mean, spoiler alert. In the next movie, he kind of had a plan of like Snape doing that. So I just really liked his like mannerism in that, and I feel like my original question was going to be like, is that what he was asking for him? But then I was, again, as we were talking, I kind of thought back to the next couple movies, and it's just such a heart-wrenching scene because even just like picturing yourself in Snape's shoes of like, he has so much respect for Dumbledore. He's like, back when he was like a Death Eater, he was like the one guy that kind of like was rooting for him, and like, he's a double agent and everyone's super sus on him, but he's like, no, like, I think it's when we have the flashback to Barty Crouch in that courtroom scene, and he's like totally just defending Snape, like he was a double agent, like he was a Death Eater, everybody knows that, now he's good. So yeah, answer my own question, but just since we're on that scene, it's a pretty powerful scene. I'm sure you guys have some things to talk about too in there.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is fantastic. Like every second really counts in that particular moment. I think maybe the adventure with Harry and Dumbledore, I don't know if I want to say it goes on too long, like with them on the island and stuff. Maybe they could have shaved a minute off, just like cutting some things here or there. But I don't think that really would have made much of a difference. And it is impactful to have that scene, and it is a heart-wrenching scene when Dumbledore is like, "Stop, Harry, don't do it."
Oh,
and he has to keep doing it. There's just like this imminent dread in that scene. Even if what's actually going to happen to Dumbledore in a few minutes, it still just like works really well. And you have like these weird golem creatures pulling them down. Weird sequence for sure.
No, 100%.
But I think it works.
Absolutely. I was just thinking of like when they apparate. Is that what it's called when they teleport? Yeah. And they're just like on that rock. That's like, how the fuck are they supposed to get in that cave from there? And I know they just did it for the awesome poster because I remember when the movie was coming out, that poster was everywhere. Where it's like Dumbledore and Harry just like standing on that rock with all the waves in the background. It's a beautiful scene. I'm glad they had it in there. But just this time around when they apparate there, I'm like, I feel like they missed the mark. How like they get to swim to the door or whatever the hell they have, the cave entrance there.
Yeah, but, I mean, they also could have skipped that boat and apparated. I don't know. There must be some limits to apparating. I don't know. Maybe it takes a lot out of you and you can't do it again after a bit. But then we see like Death Eaters just like apparating like nobody's business. So I mean, maybe they're I guess they're using the dark art, so it's a bit differently. But
wasn't it the same island the Dursleys hid out on?
It was the same. It was the same island as
Yeah.
It was
I
filmed
got a
in Lighthouse,
timeshare
yeah.
there. And just like you mentioned, like that super heart wrenching scene where he's basically like almost torturing Dumbledore to the fact like he's just begging like no more. He just keeps taking the sips, no more, please. And it's very sad, but unfortunately, that scene has just been plagued by memes for me, where it's like Dumbledore and he like opens his mouth when he's all like sad of like just one more, I promise, one more, and he's like no, no, and then finally just
I don't think I've seen those memes, man.
Oh.
I didn't have that.
I'll find
That's
one.
funny.
I'll send it to you.
It's quite sad because like he's so hard trying to convince Dumbledore to like do it, and Dumbledore did it, and he's like, water, I need water, and Harry, just the one thing he can't give him is just a fucking little shelf full of water, like.
And it's so funny
He
too
could
because
just use augmente out of his wand into his
and like
mouth
right
or
into his
something.
Right into his
Yeah,
mouth.
the shell, like
I was totally
any
thinking
of-
You don't want augmente right from the wand though. You gotta, make
No.
sure you boil that
It's
first.
like drinking
from the hose.
Exactly. You don't
Or
want you'll
even-
get splinters if you do it that way.
even when he goes down to the water, and instead of just like going at the edge of the water, he like reaches as far out as possible. to
Yeah,
get
it's pretty
the-
extra. But it's dark
Yeah.
in there. Maybe he can't see. You know, I don't know.
I love it though. It's just like I've totally been in that situation. Maybe I was like drinking the night before I wake up. It's like 4 a.m. I'm just like water.
That was
Water.
Hagrid when he woke up. He's like, dry throat.
Especially his mouth was wide open. Oh, 100%. It's probably pretty dry in that little shack he's got.
Oh no. This is a. It's interesting to watch this particular part, knowing the kind of twist, so to speak, with Snape. Because if you like, when you think about what this movie is showing on its own, like there isn't like maybe there's hints of it, but they don't reveal at all that he actually is still a good guy. You know, like they really go full in with like he is evil, and then that's supposed to be the reveal in the next movie. So it's a bit weird to watch it from that perspective, and maybe that's where it feels a bit cliffhangery as well to me, because I'm like, well, I know that he's not a bad guy, or that he is in some ways a bad guy, but he is justified, and this particular act wasn't out of malice but out of loyalty, really, said Dumbledore. Quick question, what is the Half-Blood Prince, what does that mean? I'm probably, this is probably a stupid question, but maybe, you know, I'm gonna ask this, maybe there's someone out there listening who doesn't know, and I'm gonna ask for that person, because I know, of course, but what in your guys' opinion, what does it mean to be the Half-Blood Prince?
Yeah, so it's literally just a title he gave himself. He's a half-blood. He's not a pure blood. And then I'm the half-blood prince. I'm gonna roll with that. He just a name for himself. You know, he's unfortunately.
Are his parents ever mentioned in like anything? Or does he ever mention that he's a half-blood? Like I don't remember that either.
In this movie.
When does he say it?
He says, "I'm the half-blood prince." Got him.
Apparently,
Yeah,
his mother was Eileen Prince.
Oh, okay. So the prince is actually her last name.
That's cool.
Well, that makes sense. I don't know how they would have got that into the movie, but I feel like maybe that should have been there, because otherwise the prince part doesn't make any sense. Or at least you can justify it, but it's actually a wrong justification. You'd think he's calling that because he likes the word prince, or he makes him sound like royalty, but that's not at all what it is. Or maybe it's a double entendre. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it didn't.
It's the title of the
bother me that
movie. I feel
much.
like they should have a line, personally. Just me.
How would you put that in? Because you don't like it was said, you don't find this out until 5 minutes before the movie ends. So how would you sneak that in? That his mother's last name was Prince.
He just tells Harry.
Yeah, he just tells Harry. In case you're wondering, I'm a half-blood, and my mom's name is Prince. So spread the word. It's a cool name, okay?
No, you're right, but I mean, I like. Did any of you know that
Not a chance.
That what?
that Prince
rest my
isn't
case.
actually because of the
Oh
term
no,
Prince isn't
no, I
royalty,
didn't
but
know
that's like the last name.
Not at
Like
all.
it's not revealed later. You know, if it was, maybe it would. I don't know. I feel like maybe they should have mentioned that. I don't know how you do it. I would have to look at the script and see where I'd put it in. But I don't know. Seems a bit weird, and we all just got puzzled there. None of us knew correctly. Well, Jessica did, but I think you. Maybe I'm
just
calling you out.
Googled it, right?
Yeah, you Googled it. So even you didn't know that as a Harry Potter superfan. I think that's pretty notable that like no one really knows what the title actually means.
I mean, it's just at the end of the day, it's just the title he gave himself. Whether it was like the 10-inch dong, maybe he called himself that. It's like I'm the 10-inch dong.
Yeah,
It's
but
like,
that
is
would
his
have a
mom
different
named Dong? Like,
connotation
would that
if his.
change anything?
It would be. It would be a totally different because in one way he's just being some jokester and making a sexual joke, but if his dad's last name was Dong, then it doesn't have that connotation at all. It totally changes.
Yeah,
the
but
meaning.
okay, I feel like I disagree though, because I feel like at the end of the day, it's just a name he gave himself. Like,
Yeah,
I did think that he
for-
was like self-proclaiming himself as a prince. I never would have
thought
guessed
so.
it was last name
yeah,
or maiden name.
yeah. I
mom's
don't know.
maiden name.
If I think if it wasn't the title of the movie, maybe I wouldn't care. But it just feels
Yeah.
weird that it's the title of the movie and we don't
I
actually
mean-
ever get an explanation of why that is.
I think that's a huge con Travis has in this movie, is that like the big reveal of who the Half-Blood Prince is that it's just like a title Snape gave himself. He's mentioned that many times in the past, so he probably feels the exact same way you do, where it's just kind of like it probably should have more significance because it is the title of the movie, like you just said. For me,
I'm not torn. It's not going to keep me up at night. I think that's all I
that's
had to
good.
say on it. But I was just curious, and I think we all learned a little bit there, so that's good.
Definitely.
So yeah, in the book it was Hermione mentions that there's a tiny announcement about Elaine Prince marrying a muggle called Tobias Snape and later announcing that she had given birth to a murderer. Well,
A murderer?
Harry says that he gave birth to a murderer.
Wait, and where does she? You said she read that. Where did she read that?
The
Like in an
restricted
old
section.
newspaper? Yeah, old
Yeah.
newspaper or something.
Yeah, I think it was a newspaper. I'd have to dig deeper to find out, but it was in the Half-Blood Prince book. There's
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
tiny piece.
It must
And-
happen after the death of Dumbledore, then, right? If Harry's so
Yeah,
pro,
and
yeah.
Harry's calling him a murderer, so it would be
Yeah.
after Dumbledore's death. And just
Interesting.
apparently Prince was the wizard. Snape, although his is just the married name, but Snape is the Muggle. So it makes sense that he's taking on that Prince as the last name and is like rebellious 16-year-old giving himself a name,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Especially if, like, I mean, he was obviously bullied a lot when he was a kid, which probably like is the reason why he kind of was drawn to just the more bad guy route. Understandably so, but also if his crew that he's running with, like the Death Eaters, they're all about like pure blood supremacy. If he's just the Half-Blood Prince, meaning like he's the most powerful of the Half-Bloods, but taking the Prince title of his mother. Okay, there's a lot. Sorry about that. There's a lot more significance there that I think I'd have to agree with Dylan. Maybe it is important enough to actually mention in there, right? Because that would be a tie to the whole pure blood like supremacist ideal.
Yeah, because he's one of the few half-bloods, if I'm not mistaken.
Tom Riddle himself's a half-blood, so
Hmm.
there you go.
Yeah, but
it did
just
feel
because
like
he's
a
a half-blood doesn't mean that he's going to let his Death Eaters be half-bloods.
No, very one-sided.
yeah, of course. Yeah, it did feel like a bit of a throwaway line, and that's why I was kind of curious on it. And you know, it's significant that that's the name of that's the title, the subtitle of the book and movie. Here's one note. I was kind of curious on this because that ending sequence did feel pretty long to me and dreary. And I don't want to say it dragged on, but I was curious. And yeah, like you don't see Ron and Hermione for a full half an hour during that whole sequence. Like it really is quite a while that you're just pulled away. And I think once again, that's why it felt a bit disconnected for me from the other sections of the movie, because it is just quite a long time to not have a Ron or Hermione in there. What do you guys think of the fact that like Voldemort obviously is named and there's plot happening around him, but he or the actor of Ralph Fiennes or Fiennes, I think is his name, like he's not in this movie at all. What do you guys think of that? I think that's pretty significant.
Ladies first.
I don't think it's needed. I think that there was so much going on, and it really showed how much pull he had behind the scenes. He didn't have to do anything, and Dumbledore's still dying. They're still blowing up the Weasley house. All these things are still happening, and he doesn't need to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with Jessica.
Mhm.
Because like, especially with just how this movie starts, of like the Death Eaters just popping off, and like they're around, clearly Voldemort's tasked Draco with actually like pulling it, like going to murder Dumbledore, like that's his task, and that's a big just cloud of, it's not directly Voldemort doing it, but like indirectly, because he's the one that tasks Draco, and Draco knows that he has to do it because he'll literally get murdered by Voldemort if he doesn't. Like he has no choice in the matter. And yeah, I think Jessica hit the nail right on the head there, of just like his presence that he had behind the scenes. And
Yeah.
after Dumbledore falls, Bellatrix does like the symbol up in the sky, and it's just like doom and gloom everywhere.
Yeah,
So.
his presence is still felt even if he doesn't physically appear. I wonder if there, because I remember Jessica mentioned this too on I guess it was the third movie, how like Voldemort is just like not in it and he's like not mentioned. Like maybe the name's mentioned like once or twice, but it's just like there's no plot relative to that character that goes on throughout that movie. And so I think it's interesting to look at, 4, he's really introduced. 5, we don't get much of him, like just raw screen time, but he obviously is in there a bunch. So it's interesting that the second to last book, what ends up being third to last movie, the character doesn't show up at all. And I wonder if there was a version of the script, or I wonder, I guess also in the book as well, since I haven't read this book, if he does appear in, another script of this movie or in the book at some point, and then they just decided for this movie that shit, we already have so much going on. When are we gonna fit this guy physically on screen? And like you guys made good points for, he doesn't really have any reason to necessarily.
I mean, we get a lot of screen time with Tom Riddle, though, right? The other
That's true. Actually, that's a really good point. Yeah, I kind of forgot that. I kind of see, like, they feel so different to me. I differentiate them, but you're right. That is the same character.
Yeah, this is definitely more kind of previous Voldemort as opposed to current. But I don't feel like I missed anything or lost anything. I feel that this movie was still robust enough with what was going on that it didn't take away that he wasn't front and center.
I agree. And we have so many other villains, like Draco's actually a villain in this movie, whereas the other ones, he's just like a minor nuisance. Snape is playing the role of villain. And we get the Bellatrix blowing up and stuff. Yeah, there is a ton of villains. Even like Slughorn, in a way, kind of, he isn't a bad guy, but he has some weird stuff going on. So you absolutely don't need him.
Introduction too of that werewolf dude, right? This is the first time we see him.
Yeah,
he's supposed to be I think born like both like parents. One of his parents is a werewolf. I think is how his origin is. I think he's one of those rare cases because I was reading into
permanently furry.
Well, I was reading into like Lupin having like his relationship with Tonks and then having like a kid and all that kind of stuff down the road. And I think they mentioned something about him and how it doesn't really happen. It's supposed to be rare, but like that's why he kind of looks like all hairy and everything like that.
Oh yeah,
it's
he looks feral.
That character was massive importance in the Harry Potter Lego game. So I was like, when I was playing the game, I'm like, who the fuck is this character? I do not remember them at all, and I understand why, because he doesn't do anything. He's just any old goon. It's so weird that he's thrown in here, but he is given more like camera shots that makes him feel important. But he's just like such a non-factor. He's just like a generic goon. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
I think he has a little bit of a bigger role in the next movie or two, but
okay,
probably not to the Lego Harry Potter extent.
Like
same with those
plates,
those climbing plates. Though they unfortunately fell to the the wayside.
Yeah. I have expelled my notes. And there's nothing worse than getting expelled. So
I wrote all
what you guys got?
I wrote all my notes on Shay's iPad. I think she's using it, so I'm gonna
go grab it.
Yeah, I'm
gonna
pull
it out of her hands.
There might be yelling, so I gotta mute.
Just use Accio. You're good to go.
You got anything, Taylor?
I have one. Actually, I have two things. The one thing is with Draco. I found it kind of interesting that it necessarily wasn't. I mean, yeah, it was his responsibility and duty he was tasked with, but I didn't also see it as that. I saw it as it was his father kind of using his son to get back in good favor with Voldemort. And I think that is like the most heaviest thing, when you have like his dad pushing it on Draco when his mom doesn't want it to be. I just thought that was an interesting thing. The other thing, how did you guys feel about the change with Tom Riddle? Because as far as like recastings go, I feel like now we've had Dumbledore and now we've had Tom Riddle that's recasted.
Is he recast or is he just a different age?
I think he's just different age.
Yeah,
I
it's a
feel
different age.
really. I felt like that was like the same age period.
Well,
from
when did the
Secrets.
When did the Chamber of Secrets get open compared to when he was talking to Slughorn in that office? Because that was in the 40s when he was talking to Slughorn. I guess
Yeah, I do think you make a good point, but I think it would have been tricky, Taylor, since that actor, like in those scenes, he's like younger. I'm guessing by like a year or two than he was in those scenes from that other movie. But now that actor, who is also a younger guy, would be like a few years older.
He just
So
like
it would
the most
be
notable
pretty
thing. The most notable thing was just that the one in Chamber was significantly taller than I feel like the one in this film was.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been that dark magic made him grow.
It just
extra
shrunk him.
fast.
It
I think
happens
you're-
with spiders too.
I think you're right, Taylor, because it says the chamber was open 1942, 1943, and then I think he was talking to Slughorn like 41, 42. So I guess they did just recast for.
Yeah,
that.
it's funny that I didn't even think about that once. Like I didn't. That's not even a thought that crossed my mind because I think they nailed the casting they did get. Like he fit right in there
Well-
perfectly. He had the same kind of hairdo. He had that same evil look to him.
I found him very similar to like the youngest version of Tom Riddle, which
Yeah.
it went very well, like pairing there.
Mhm.
All right, I'll fire through some of my notes here. I got. It was fun to like finally see like Ron have like the spotlight. He's just been like Harry's wingman the entire series, and then he gets to like be the hero that won the day of Quidditch, even though the only way that they can win the game is if Harry had to catch the golden snitch. So really, who's the hero there? But whatever. Also, like
That's a great point. Very astute point, Kirkland.
thank you very much. I think if you like that one, I think you'll like this one. I noticed how
Cool.
fucking jacked Ron was in this movie. He swelled up big time. So good on him.
Nice.
I
Another
think I
good
already
point.
mentioned it, but this had the best humor in the series for me. Definitely. Mr. Weasley was like so incredibly serious in this movie compared to like all the other interpretations that we've seen him. It really stood out to me. I want to mention mostly when he was just talking about
His wife.
Well,
yeah,
things, I mean,
and how
he's seen
like
some shit
sus
since
they
the last
were.
time we
Yeah,
saw.
I mean, he almost died, right, to Nagini. So that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And then there is, I mentioned there's just some funny little high school cringy type, romance stuff going on. But the one that like made me gasp on how ridiculous it was when right before the Death Eaters come and like torch the Weasley palace, because it's such a nice house, I call it a palace. It's like Harry like looking out the window, and then who comes up to him but like Ginny Weasley in a wet towel, just like fucking butt ass naked. And then what does she say to him? She's like, "Oh, shoelace." And then she like goes over, bends over, and like ties his shoelace. I'm like,
Towel
what
falls
is
off.
happening right now? Yeah, like this is so strange. What she says right before that is like, "Is Ron asleep?" It's like, "Oh, not yet." It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay, something's gonna happen if those Death Eaters didn't.
She was
come,
looking to
but
recreate
anyways.
that Marauders map. That's for sure. Right in the stairwell of the Weasley.
Of the
residence,
Weasley
of all
hut, yeah.
places.
Ron's up there with the Marauders map. What the hell's going on? Anyways, that's all my notes. They weren't very serious. Mostly just ridiculous things that I
You
had to
said
capture.
serious a lot this episode, and I don't know if
You
it's.
did.
I- go-to
Every time I
word.
hear it too, I'm like, ugh, I should have a different
You're
word.
disgusted with yourself.
Yeah.
Like, how
Like,
dare
no
I make a good
puns,
pun?
no puns, people. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So I'm gonna backtrack here. The original Tom Riddle in the Chamber of Secrets. So I'm just not gonna do the math for how old he would have been, but he was born in 1978. So he
Who?
was
The actor, not the character.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
so Tom Riddle, and then the one that they recast for this one for the sixth movie, he was born in 1991. So they went a lot younger to try and match that age.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know, maybe because he would have been 20 something, 70s. 80s and so I mean maybe he really hit the 20s hard and got a bunch of stubble they couldn't hide and just didn't look like. But the other piece of that too is you have to think because they had the kid Riddle and the teenage Riddle, you have to match those two actors, right?
Totally.
So
yeah, totally.
Making sure that however older Riddle looked, that they had a kid actor that fit that persona that matched for that too.
Yeah. We haven't, I mean, it's a different director from all those years ago. Maybe he had just a different vision with the character. I don't know what the casting director is like for these movies, but maybe that switched around and some different people were picking the cast. And so maybe that's another reason why it's a different style.
I definitely don't mind the Voldemort that we got, like young Tom Riddle in this one. I won't lie though, I'm definitely more on board for the one from Chamber though. I just feel like that one had an assertiveness to him and like power and
I would say.
yeah,
a
more
nicer
distinct.
jawline.
Yeah, his facial physique.
He's a handsome
was like,
man. Yeah, I definitely agree with Jessica though. I feel like if you brought back the same guy, he would have just been like, I don't know what he looked
He hit
like at the
puberty
time of this
hard.
casting. Yeah, maybe he's just like a bodybuilder now. And they're like, maybe we'll go.
Maybe he
with a
doesn't
different
act anymore.
option.
You know.
Him and Ron
He's an
are
Looks
the
like
same
architect
plan.
now. Yeah.
Looks like he was in a TV series in 2009. So maybe he was just busy.
Yeah, he couldn't come in and film
Harry
things.
Potter. Yeah. Just since we're touching upon like that type of Tom Riddle and Chamber Secrets, and we were kind of speculating. I mean, maybe we didn't have to speculate. Jessica, do you know like who Tom Riddle's first murder was? Because when I was looking into the Chamber of Secrets, it said it was open like 1942, which is very close to around the time when Slughorn was like had that conversation with him. Could the basilisk killing Myrtle in the bathroom, like, could that technically be because of him? Because he released the basilisk, so could that account for his murder? Because he was directly like responsible for that.
That's an interesting question. Maybe is that something to do with why the Fang, or maybe that comes up in the next one, why the Basilisk Fang can destroy.
And like that was his first Horcrux, maybe, right? Like the diary. Yeah, something to think about. Think about that, kids.
This, man. This is a can of worms that I want to be inside. It's a good one.
I got my can opener. Let's do it.
Looks like the first murder were his parents.
Oh,
Jesus Christ!
That's classic.
Damn.
So does that count as 2 Horcruxes? Was he rocking 2
Horcrux?
Yeah, because if you go to his conversation with Slughorn, he was holding that ring, right? And that's his family ring. Is that not a Horcrux?
Oh, he was salivating for it. Oh, I'm gonna fucking kill my parents.
Well, like, did he already kill his parents at that point? Because he was an orphan, right?
No, because he was asking about it. So I don't think he was an orphan at that time.
But I feel like he knew about what the Horcruxes were. He just didn't. He wanted to know if he could do it more than once.
We'd have to look at the gravestone from the graveyard of Tom Riddle's parents.
Oh yeah. Oh, we're number crunching now.
We're digging deep.
I'll get my whiteboard. Start writing down these dates.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got here Thomas Riddle died in 1943 and Mary Riddle 1943.
The math adds up, I think.
Okay. And then
that would have been his third year, second year,
fifth year,
fifth year.
No, it's the second.
His second year.
Yeah, it's because it's the same year that then he killed. Oh no, it would have been his 6th year because Tom Riddle placed his 16-year-old self in the diary.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking second because that's when the chamber gets open in these movies.
Yeah. So it's his 6th year.
That's some pretty shit logic from him. But I thought Slughorn, like when Slughorn's talking to young, like he seems like a pretty young Tom Riddle at that point when they're having that conversation. But I guess, that he doesn't kill them. Like,
it might have been.
It gets a little murky,
Myrtle. It might have been Moaning Myrtle.
So I'm telling you.
Yeah. So Tom Riddle says he placed his 16-year-old self in the diary, so he must have done it in the fall after the summer when he killed the Riddles and before he turned 17 at the end of December.
Ref's
and he was
let
back into Hogwarts.
So, well, maybe they didn't know it was him, right?
Damn it, Dumbledore.
What a wild year that would have been, because it says like during the school year of 1943 is when he hosted like the supper. Sorry, I'm talking about Slughorn. Hosted the supper for the Slytherin boys, Tom Riddle in there, and then the chamber was open during 1942 to 1943 school year. Like he was freaking busy that year. My gosh, he was in focusing on his charms class, like a certain Malfoy.
Yeah, that's a lot of months. It's a lot of months to get down.
Yeah. What a bad guy.
Yeah, he's almost like the grand villain of
Should be.
movie Swing.
Is that all your notes then?
Yep. All my notes were ridiculous and didn't really add anything to the conversation, but I mentioned them nonetheless.
Okay. So I'll go through what I have first. I'll start from the top. This is a personal fact for everyone. We get to learn about Sirius's younger brother, and because for those that know, my current pregnancy. So we have Mordecai Sirius, and this one is going to have Sirius's younger brother's name incorporated. Sirius's younger brother in the movies / books is going to be Sirius's.
What is
awesome.
that name? Or are you not revealing that? I mean, I could Google it, but if you want it to be a surprise, that's.
So his middle name is Arcturus.
Ooh.
And that's the middle name that we're giving our child.
That's a awesome name.
Why don't you go with like Creature? It's not a good serious related name.
Or Half-Blood Prince.
Aragog.
We'll keep it on the back burner if number 3 happens.
Yeah, just throw a Slughorn in there.
Slughorn
Creature.
there with his brother.
Oh god.
You're so serious when you ask that question. Like...
Call him Slug for short.
So yeah, just thought I'd throw out that quick little personal
that's awesome.
fact.
I like it.
That's not a fun fact that you can find on the IMDb page.
No.
You got to come to GeekVerse for that fun fact. We got the exclusive content on that one.
So yeah, he gets brought up in the beginning with Slughorn, and they find a picture of Sirius and Regulus. Is it how it's pronounced? Regulus?
Like
yeah.
Legolas.
No, not Legolas. Wrong movie.
Regulus.
My next note is so Draco knocks Potter out and then stomps on his face.
Ugh.
And then throws the invisibility cloak over him. And I don't know about you guys, but I mean, if I'm a follower of the Dark Lord, I'd be like, this invisibility cloak is the freaking shit. I'ma take this.
Yeah, or destroy it. One or the other.
We don't know it at this point, but that's a Deathly Hallows. Like, that's a piece of Death's own cloak.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just think I would have been like, well, I'm gonna take this shit.
It definitely crossed my mind, but at the same time, I just jotted under that they don't know what the Deathly Hallow is, especially not Draco. That's just what I put it under.
I think he was just pumped on adrenaline after finally getting a good kick on Harry and knocking him out. He feels pretty confident. He's thinking about other things. He's like, I can't wait to tell the boys what I just did. Crab and Goyle are gonna pop off.
Just adrenaline rushed, yeah.
The
boys. I can't wait to tell the boys about what I just did. And then he sees Harry 2 minutes later.
Yeah,
like, oh, well, that plan didn't work.
He'll still tell the boys.
Enjoy the ride back to London, and then all of a sudden Harry's just there again. It's like,
nice face,
shit.
Potter.
Can you guys remember the name of the spell that Luna did on his nose? 10 points to whoever gets it right.
You pixie.
Yeah, you got it.
Wait, what?
You didn't even let them try.
After she said it correct, you waited 5 seconds to.
Yeah,
I know. I left it open, but
you're not allowed to host Harry Potter Trivial Pursuit anymore.
Well, it'll be different when we do that.
I would not have guessed that, for the record.
That's close.
I was thinking about it before he asked it. Just happened to be.
Jesus.
Just got it in the coffers.
She's been taking divinity class, I guess.
Yeah, I had it locked and ready. I was like, I can sense I'm going to need to know the spell for that broken nose. It was the line. Have you ever fixed a nose? I've done a couple toes once. And how different are they really?
Good old.
Okay. And Harry's just along for the ride. What a
He doesn't
trooper.
have much choice, to be honest.
I mean, he could wait and go to the actual doctor, Mrs. Pomfrey or whatever.
Could have casted a Brachiarmamendo and just healed it that way.
Nose
turns into Voldemort. No nose.
Oh no.
No, I wanted Drupin. I wanted just
Really?
a saggy.
No, I like the
second
matching
one.
chosen one with the no nose.
Voldemort sees him. He's just like, You stealing my thing? What the hell? Takes Lucius's nose because he's just.
The nose of
Got
the
your nose.
servant willingly given.
Oh my god.
That's good shit.
Another one when we do have the throwback to little 7-year-old Riddle or however old he is. They do have, there's kind of two foreshadowing pieces. One is obviously the picture of the cave that they go to, and two is if you notice there's 7 rocks on the window, so him already counting about splitting his soul. So just a little, there's a couple of foreshadows to that 7 in this one, I guess.
Why was he at an orphanage when he was young like that if his parents died in 1943?
I think because he was magic.
Oh, his parents just sent him to an orphanage. So
I
he
think
went
he
to
had,
an
like,
orphanage and he
yeah.
had parents.
Or he
They didn't want him.
And that's why he goes and kills them.
Right.
Ray's father abandoned his in the streets of London when potion's influence was lifted. His mother died moments after giving birth. So yeah, his mom was. So he must have killed his dad's new wife.
That sucks for her.
So
the new wife or the old wife?
The new wife.
Everyone.
well, the
Just
mom died
everyone.
during birth. I mean,
Oh,
technically, would that be his first kill? He
Oh,
killed more than.
Let's not.
Brutal.
let's not get into that. Yeah.
Continuing onwards, unless anyone has anything else on that one. One thing I actually laughed at is the scene where Katie Bell is getting thrown around, and there's 4 people that just stand there and watch and do absolutely nothing.
I mean, what are you gonna do?
I mean,
Petrificus
magic.
totalis. Yeah, petrifier.
Some kind of spell.
Petrified.
I feel like you could try and do something.
You could.
Sectum
There's-
sempra, or what's that spelling? Caused her to
Avada Kedavra.
hemorrhage. Yeah. Thought it would stop her.
And that
Just on Katie Bell, when she's up and at him again, and she's in the cafeteria area or whatever, and
Hall.
Hermione. Thank you. Hermione is like, Harry, that's Katie Bell. When honestly, when he first said that, I thought they were talking about Katie Cho. Or I thought that
That's
was her
not her
name.
name.
No, I know. I thought that was her name for some
Oh.
reason. I'm like, oh my god, Cho's back. But no, it's just Katie Bell. But
it's Cho Chang,
Cho Chang.
Yeah, not Katie. It's
I thought it was
definitely
Katie
not
Cho, 100%.
not Katie Bell.
That goes to show how little she's in the show. I can't even remember her name.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I did not know the Ron's love interest's name throughout the whole thing. And even when you said it the first couple times, I'm like, should I know who Lavender is?
What about the person that slips Harry the love potion? Do you know her name?
Oh man, it was like Romilda or something, right?
That's pretty good, actually.
Romilda Vines.
Yeah, good job,
Fine.
Adam Hartcaster. 10 points to Hufflepuff.
Yes.
Dylan, did you like how Harry referred to himself as the chosen one?
I thought that was really interesting, actually. I didn't know how to bring that up as a thing because I don't know how I feel about it. But it is weird that they just bring up the trope that the character is. I don't know. It felt very strange to me for sure.
What about you guys?
I loved it, especially when he was just like, "Fuck, I would use that to get chicks, probably." She's only interested in you because you're the chosen
he
one.
kind of
But
uses it as an
Hermione,
ego.
I
trip
am the
towards
chosen
that.
one. Yeah,
Yeah,
just a horny teenager. It's like, fuck, what can you expect?
yeah. That's the
Like,
name of his
the only
penis.
time
The
he
chosen
really
one.
uses it is with Slughorn.
Sorry, say it again.
The only time that he really brags about it too much is with Slughorn.
I don't know.
Right, he says, "I am the chosen one."
And with
He's like, I'm
Hermione.
going to say something to you that I haven't confirmed to anyone else or whatever. Many people have asked, but I've never said.
I mean, the
Whatever.
newspaper, that's like their leading article, right? At the beginning of the movie. It's like Harry
Yeah,
Potter,
but that's
chosen
not,
one.
That's not Harry calling himself the chosen one.
I don't know. He does. He says that when he's talking with Hermione as well.
He's getting lots of ladies with that title.
Oh, yeah. It was a productive year. Unfortunately, he had to help Dumbledore. Fucking asshole.
It's a pretty good. It's like a fable. You can choose the chicken chaser or whatever. whatever. It's like the chosen one's a pretty good one to make as your little tagline that everyone calls you.
Oh my god.
Chicken
Chasing
chase there.
chickens. Yeah.
I'm excited for Fable 3.
Fuck.
Fable 3.
Fable 3.
Fable 4.
Fable 3 was a thing already, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Like
it,
you're like a king or something.
it sure was.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it was.
Chosen one.
Was misspoke. And then kind of on that same note, when Ron is getting poisoned and just like flopping around on the floor, and you would think Slughorn,
He really
the
froze up.
potion
in that
master
moment.
would, yeah, you think he would be able to do something,
Mm-hmm.
anything.
Well, that's why I wondered. I honestly, for a moment, wondered if there was gonna be a twist there where he is evil and he like tried to kill Ron. I was like, wow, how like inept are you as a professor that you're just letting this go on?
He didn't really care about Wallamy that much. He was just gonna let him just die.
If that was his Wonder Boy, probably.
Dude,
would
that was
save him.
Harry. He would have been all over him, like helping him out.
Yeah, I found that. I mean, I feel like that kind of gives certain depth to the character in like the point where he's just like a bookworm and like not action ready at all. Like especially when he gave Ron the tonic, and then he's like, okay, I know what happened, and then he starts like choking, and he's just like, I don't know what's going on. Basically, he is an old man. Maybe you chalk it out to that, but it definitely stood out. Of like, even Harry was like, Professor, do something. He's just like frozen. I don't know. He's the chosen one.
Narrator,
They gotta have
did
the
not
chosen
do
one.
something.
Yeah.
I do find it interesting how Malfoy is literally turned into an assassin. He tried the necklace, he tried the poison like tonic, like, and just finally it's like, it's not working. I just gotta wands out him. But
Wands out.
it's just very interesting how that development again for Malfoy is he's just trying to assassinate. Because again, it goes to boot how he can't face Dumbledore eye to eye to
Mhm.
kill him, right?
He's pretty lucky too that Dumbledore wasn't trying to defend himself, because like if he took that much time to do the deed, in a regular setting, Dumbledore would have fucked him up. Like he would have just been launched into the wall, locked up. Azkaban.
He would have put Malfoy in the little water bubble like in the previous movie to Voldemort, and Malfoy totally would have drowned.
dropped him in the Black Lake. Yeah.
He was pretty damaged, right? Like when they first got to the astronomy tower, he's like limping. Harry's kind of helping him. And then Draco does disarm him, which turns out being pretty significant in the next coming movies. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I still think if he wanted to, like if it was a Death Eater, not Draco in front of him, I think he would have responded a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
Just goes to show how like caring Dumbledore is. Of like, it doesn't matter who his student is; it's still a student in his eyes, and he can just always possibly persuade them to the ways of the light.
Well, that's the first kind of one-on-one scene you ever get with Dumbledore and Malfoy. Just the compassion,
Yeah.
like I knew a boy who made all the wrong choices, which is probably not what you want to hear when you're about to kill this guy. It's probably gonna like instigate the fire.
Well,
What do you call me? He gets pissed off.
He's like trying to hit him with a riddle to confuse him.
with a Tom Riddle.
Ayo.
You did. I knew a boy. They made all the wrong choices.
Yeah, Tom Riddle. Which I mean, kind of talking about the man that your family worships, but
I thought he
go
was
ahead
talking
and
about
try.
Malfoy. You mean he was actually talking about Riddle the whole time?
Yeah.
Oh shit! I thought he meant Malfoy was just shitting all over him.
Yeah.
I really did.
Taylor would have took offense and just Avada Kedavra him right there. I made all the wrong choices. Oh yeah.
I'll show you what happens when you give those extra points to Gryffindor.
We should have won that year one. That's good.
So, next kind of point is the Septum Sempra, and this scene in the book was just a lot more intense. I was kind of disappointed by it.
The bathroom scene? Is that which one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to play that Lego game, man. That is a fucking slobber knocker. That thing takes like a half an hour to get through. Oh my god.
Knocker.
It's quite the sequence, man.
Yeah, in the book, I just remember like it talks about Draco like being like bleeding out and coughing up blood, and it's just such an intense spell. And this one, it's just kind of like he looks like he's
PG.
got a bunch of glass cuts.
Yeah. I know. I was curious about it. It looks like it just like causes you to hemorrhage like everywhere in your body. It's
Mhm.
pretty fucking intense for like. I mean, Snape made that while he was a student, right? Like that's pretty. It's pretty impressive to have a dark, powerful, offensive spell like that at whatever age he was when he did it. But yeah, I was actually gonna ask you like what the difference in, because I mean in the book they always go more in depth on like everything, and in this one, you know, it's a movie for a family. At the end of the day, it is PG-13, but still, you can only do so much. Um, but yeah,
So,
Just-
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was done. I don't know when to stop talking.
I for the longest time always thought that the spell that Harry used here was the same spell that was used when he does the dueling against Malfoy. So, but I can confirm now.
Summon
This,
serpent.
yeah,
Just like starts talking to us.
Serpent Sorcia.
in in Chamber of Secrets, Harry does Ricta Sempra, and then in this he does Sectum Sempra. So it totally, the pronunciation
Ooh.
totally like made me think it was the same spell. And I was like, well, why didn't he almost
Oh.
kill Malfoy back in year 2? Like same
That's
spell.
funny. That's good
but-
memory on your behalf.
But fun fact: the spell Ricta Sempra from Chamber of Secrets is the tickling charm. So I guess it makes people buckle laughing. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what he tried to do this time, but the wrong like pronunciation came out.
I don't think so. I think
It's
like
a violent tickling.
a few minutes before he engages with Malfoy, he's like looking at the spell Sectum Sempra, 4 enemies. It's like highlighted. Everybody, all the viewers, focus on this spell. You know.
Do you guys feel like if he wasn't so aggressive, like I know what you're doing, Malfoy, like if he just like was like friendly and genuine to him, he might have actually converted or like got to him?
I mean, probably not because he hates Potter so goddamn much. Like again, I feel like that's kind of a running theme in this series of like people just like coming off the wrong way. But Harry does hate Draco, and he knows at this point that he hexed Katie Bell, right? Which
But he's crying, right? So you feel like you would go in and be like, "Oh, Malfoy, I'm sorry," or I don't know, maybe not sorry, but something else.
It's like, you fucking broke my nose, bitch. We're settling this right now. I got new spells. Let's do this.
Just puts the invisibility cloak over him so no one can find him. That would be the real gangster play right there.
There's just blood like kind of around this invisible object. Oh,
Yeah,
he
I
was
don't think
definitely
there's
gonna
any-
die there, though.
I don't think there's any of that respect. Like in I guess it was the last movie, like when shit goes wrong at the start of the movie, and then like Harry and Dudley, like yes, they just exchanged some pretty tragic words, but then they like ran the same direction and they were like working together. That not with Malfoy. It's a different vibe for sure.
I 100% thought you were gonna like quote Lego Harry Potter again. It's like, yeah, you go back to Lego Harry Potter and this interaction, but
Oh
it's
my
just like
God. It's
your
like you have
best
to solve like
reference.
various puzzles. I remember
Oh,
getting
good.
stuck at that part. So there you go.
It's a good game. 10 out of 10.
I'm not gonna go that far, but it's pretty good. But you're
What's your
actually
favorite-
right because numbers are meaningless anyway. So I agree. It is a 10 out of 10.
What's your favorite Lego game?
Harry
Just
Potter.
asking Dylan.
Honestly, it
Just
might
keep it
like.
short.
I mean, as a kid, Lego Star Wars, but I don't know. I haven't played it in like 2 decades. So I'm gonna go with the Harry Potter one. It was good. I'll tell you one
Ooh,
is
10 out of
shitty
10.
though. The Incredibles one is god awful.
I
Wow,
heard
what a terrible
from
game.
you.
I know. This is my soapbox. We're talking about bad games. Okay.
So I'm gonna go back. So in the book, this is just kind of read it quickly. Blood splurted from Malfoy's. Blood
Maltoids.
splurted from Malfoy's face and chest, so he'd have been slashed by an invisible sword. Harry got to his feet and plunged towards Malfoy, whose face was now shiny scarlet, his white hand scrabbling at his blood-soaked chest. So basically, the curse is supposed to slash the victim from a distance and follows the wand movement. So if Harry
Ooh.
did that, it would be like a sword slash.
So could he technically just decapitate him then? Or is it just like a laceration, not like an actual full-on cut?
I think it's more of like a deep wound as opposed to cutting off a head.
Yeah. Okay.
But that did lead me to my second kind of piece of this is, so it says that Snape created this. And how do we think one creates spells? Like, did they just sit in their bedroom and utter different things over and over until something does something?
It's a good question.
I'm not prepared to answer that. That's some complex shit.
I think it really depends on the person, the wizard using it, right? Like, because he was very capable and wanted to be like defense against the dark arts. So I feel like he just pursued that route, and I wouldn't say like you can just whisper things, because again, if you're like a little boy and you just happen to whisper Avada Kedavra because you're at a magic show and the guy's like abracadabra alakazam and you're like, I can't speak, so you say Avada Kedavra and you kill the guy, like it could totally backfire. So I feel like it just comes down to looking at what other spells other wizards have created and maybe seeing if you can pull maybe certain syllables and just certain
But you were just
swan
saying that
movements.
this had the same sound as the tickle curse. How do you go from the tickle curse to slashing people with an invisible sword? And also, this wasn't as a defense against the dark arts thing. This was created to use against his enemies, aka the Marauders. So James and
but he
Sirius.
would. What better way to show the defense of it, right? Than how to like heal Malfoy and put his blood back in him with defensive spells.
No, that's definitely not how this was created. He definitely did
To be
not
honest, I
create
don't have an
this.
answer either. I'm trying my best, but I'm drowning. Pull
Just
me
take
out
a
of the
seat,
black
sir.
lake.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just leave that one for now. And then also this one, once again, there was no Dursleys, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. You are not mistaken.
And I don't think we really see them much again, because after this it's all Horcruxes and
Good. We don't need them.
Yeah.
We had our time with them.
Interesting point.
We got enough. There's no dynamic nature to them. They're just static characters, so I don't think we need them again.
There was a deleted scene, which in the next movie I will be happy to talk about when we get to that, because I think it was very much a missed opportunity.
Give me one word, just like a little teaser trailer. One word.
Dursley.
Oh, that's too
He
generic.
did it.
Yeah.
He did it to you.
oh, that was beautiful. And then we kind of talked about this in the beginning, but yeah, obviously, Snape having to kill Dumbledore and the significance of that, especially with, we don't hear so much about it in the movies, but Dumbledore's hand is killing him. So the unforgivable curse as well, had Snape not done it and Bellatrix just got mad and did it without giving any time to think about it, Snape then would have died from the unbreakable vow that he made too, right?
Do you think
So
Bellatrix would have done that just to fuck over Snape? Or would she have honored
No.
that?
No, because I feel like that would have pissed off Voldemort. Because Voldemort had his plan of Draco had to do it, and then, like even later on, when she fires a blast at Harry, Snape just snaps at her like, "Fucking Voldemort has a plan. Like, come on, you know this." Then she's like, kind of okay, yeah.
I mean, she does seem a little bit unhinged, though.
Oh, 100%. Just that laugh alone.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could see her kind of being like, I'm done with this. Obviously that discussion that near the beginning of the movie where we see Snape and Dumbledore talking and Dumbledore's like, when it's time, I'm sure that Snape mentioned that there was a unbreakable vow, and that part of that was having to kill him. Snape knows about the hand because Snape is giving him potions to try and slow the spread of the disease.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
it's just
good observation.
all these little things. Last kind of 2 quick points in the books. So 2 book notes. Slughorn refers to Ron as Rupert instead of Willoughby, and that is an actual nod from JK to Rupert Grint.
There you go.
Yeah. So that quick little shout out. And then as well, we do actually have the necklace mentioned in the books when they're in Borgin Burkes. It's sitting there with a sign that says, "Caution, do not touch. Do not touch. Cursed has already claimed the life of 19 Muggle owners." So, yeah, would would have been a fun little thing to kind of throw in there because just to see it. But and then the little kind of just a personal question for you guys. So you guys, none of you have read or anything to this point, so you obviously don't own the books. Did any of you own the movies?
Yep.
Yep.
I'm not surprised by that one.
I didn't have
Really?
all of them. I probably stopped at the fourth one, and that's probably why I haven't seen 5 or 6 as much because I didn't have them. And I don't think I've never got Deathly Hollows either. I wasn't buying DVDs at that point, I think so.
I think I only had the first 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. On DVD. And then I had all the OG books. The family had them. And then my sister just yanked those when she
Burned them.
moved away.
Book burning.
She better not have, because they're the OG ones that are like impossible to find. See, Jessica's got the OG ones. She's representing. Yeah. Those are the best ones.
That was a clean finger move along the shelf. That was like perfectly seamless.
That was. Yeah.
Just practice it.
It's like she had a ruler.
I had to go towards the wall, so it would have been awkward had I. Definitely.
You
Wrong way.
nailed it the first time. I don't know what you're doing here. Oh no!
Taylor should have just.
You gotta quit while you're ahead sometimes.
That's not how I self-sabotage my life, though. I never just quit while I'm ahead.
It's true.
Yeah, that's kind of all my notes.
Excellent.
Well, we're just shy of 2 hours, 30 minutes. So this is a new record for the Harry Potter Retrospective.
Mine's 2 hours and 15, so I hope my
Yeah.
Audacity isn't broken.
Mine's 2:15
No,
as well.
that's good.
2:15.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
I literally meant, when I say just short of, and I was putting like 15 minutes short. So
I should have known. Yeah.
Yeah. That was my bad.
It was so obvious.
I'll apologize.
How could I have not known?
Oh, well, yes, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that wraps up the Half-Blood Prince. And we'll be back next
will.
week on Patreon. We're going to be dropping the Deadly Hallows Part 1, and then it's going to be getting juicy. It's going to be getting dark, grimy, full of adventure.
Ugh.
So unless
that
anything
doesn't make it sound that enjoyable.
dark, grimy, and full of adventure.
I think
That's why
the
I get
full
out of bed every
adventure,
day.
like caveat makes it worth it,
I want it dank and dewy and wet and smelly.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Harry's nose that you guys discussed, like just droopy and. Yeah.
I don't want a grimy adventure, though.
Well,
This
you're
is
getting
Jessica's
one, so
last-
you better
last
not- It's gonna be
participation.
a bumpy ride.
It definitely is.
Oh,
It's been a very bumpy ride up to this
Mhm.
point.
Let's go to bed. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Y'all ready?
2, 1.
Mischief
Man,
Mischief
managed.
managed.
Oh, Kirklin, no.
I was like, hey, in 3 seconds, I'm going to stop my Audacity. That's where my mind went. So I stopped my Audacity when we got down to 3. And then I
Really?
forgot what we did. My bad. Roll credits. Get us out of here.